The Far East is very silent, almost too silent. One feels there's something ominous in the Japanese quiet, almost like the tense crouch of the great cat in that moment before the spring to attack. And yet, in this Tokyo tension of today, there's still a lack of certainty, a seeming indecision, waiting still a little while to be more sure of the results of the Russian campaign to the west. Even though some Japanese may have made promises to their Axis masters, they can deliver on those promises only if they can bring a majority of their fellow jingoists along. And the opinions of Tokyo leadership still differ. They might be brought together at any hour, and the silence is disturbing.
Here's your morning news in brief. War situation. Berlin. Germans claim big victories over Reds. Moscow. British joint war alliance with Russia signed. Moscow. Gigantic battles rage all day Sunday on 3 fronts. Helsingfors. Priests reported slain by Reds in Baltic states. Cairo. Armistice accepted in Syria up to London and Vichy. Washington. Roosevelt war program stirs up revolt in Congress. Local Chicago. 80,000 thunder their applause at thrill show. Removal of Secretary Knox urged by America First leaders. Governor Green appoints 98 men to state highway police force. Illinois opposes war by 4-1 as poll nears end. Domestic. Bishop assailed for view that Roosevelt alone holds war fate. Navy bomber sent to salute pro-war rally in Brooklyn. Sale of air raid equipment puts silver lining in war clouds. Foreign. Ball bat clue studied in Bermuda, murder of woman censor. New vaccine wars on yellow fever at defense bases. Sports. Yanks DiMaggio roll on, beat White Sox 8-1 and 1-0. Gezzi beats Nelson on 38th hole for PGA title. Cubs split with Dodgers before 35,150 in Brooklyn. Wilson hurls lie charge at Grange in fight over Zupke. Indians sweep doubleheader from Red Sox 9-6 and 2-1. Reds divide doubleheader with Braves. Commerce and finance. Develop process to help ease shortage of aluminum. Steel shortage fear is declared unjustified by trade publication. Total of 893 American ships being built or under contract. Wheat excess rules eased in farm penalty fight. Good evening and welcome to July 14th, 1941. My name is Henry Chop, your host. Tonight we are going to hear from General Charles DeGaulle, Winston Churchill, a BBC fighter pilot. We are going to listen to the American Farmer Program, The Goldbergs, The Adventures of Superman, The Lone Ranger, The Chamber Music Society of Lower Basin Street, Forecast, and The Cavalcade of America. I will tell you a little bit more about these programs in just a little bit. If you enjoy the content of this channel, not only subscribe, but please donate to its upkeep. Because of the vintage radio, music, and films that we share, this channel does not qualify for YouTube monetization. Help motivate us to consistently post this wonderful content. We like to think that this channel is more interesting and entertaining than any other World War II channel on YouTube. Help us keep going by donating. In the expanded description section to this video, you will find 2 links for which to donate. One is for PayPal and the other is for a GoFundMe. If the GoFundMe link is outdated on this video, go to this channel's description or our latest video where you will find an updated link. Any little bit helps. If you love old-time radio, film, and music, don't forget to subscribe to this channel and click on the bell icon to get notifications as to when a new upload will premiere. If you are interested in World War II as much as I am, check out our other channel, the World War II newspaper channel. Expand the description section to this video and you will see a link that will take you there. Now I'd suggest listening to the latest upload to decide if it's your thing. Over there you will hear the Chicago Tribune read to you for between 90 minutes to 2 hours. You will get a much more detailed look about what it was like to actually live through World War II than I can give you just by sharing radio broadcasts. You will not only hear detailed news of the big battles and historical events, you will hear trivial facts about the war. You will hear news from the United States home front from the early stages of U.S. mobilization and war protests to Pearl Harbor and the ramping up of the war machine to the final victories and reconversion. You will hear every facet of American life change forever. My name is Henry Chop, your host. We are up to July 14th, 1941 in our timeline. I know a few days back, I said that I do not like sharing excerpts of speeches, if at all possible. Well, the first two broadcasts that we're going to feature tonight are actually excerpts or composites, whichever way you want to look at it. I just could not find the entire speeches for these. The first one runs about 5 minutes long. It's General Charles DeGaulle over the BBC, and he is urging America to join the Allies. I just thought it was very historically significant, so I decided to add it, even though it's not his complete speech. The second one is Winston Churchill, and he's speaking to Parliament. And this runs about 8 minutes long, actually 7 minutes, 10 seconds, according to my file here. So we have a little bit of Winston Churchill. Unfortunately, I do not have the entire address of that. Then following that, we are going to hear from a fighter pilot named Richard Hillary, who was shot down. And this was also broadcast over the BBC. So the first three things we have are from shortwave, from the BBC. So we're going to tune in on the shortwave a little bit tonight. Then following that, we are going to go over to WHAS in Louisville. This is a daytime program called The American Farmer, and it's a local program as well. It's a great program showing how radio served their local communities. In this episode, the program visits a snake farm. Oh man, it makes you want to cringe, doesn't it? And you even get to hear the microphone held up to poisonous snakes, including rattlesnakes. Ooh, man, some nasty stuff there. But fun stuff, too. It's going to be an interesting program to listen to. And then following that, we have the Goldbergs, 2:30 in the afternoon. I don't have any specific times for the stuff above. I don't have access to the local Louisville newspapers, so I don't know when American Farmer aired. Maybe one day I won't be so cheap and I'll buy newspapers from all over the country and be able to look all of this stuff, newspaper archives all over the country. But for now, I only can afford the Chicago Tribune newspaper archives. Anyway, the Goldbergs aired at 2:30 in the afternoon. Then we have The Adventures of Superman. That was a syndicated program. It is not listed in the Chicago radio listings. But the next program is The Lone Ranger, 7:30 in the evening over Mutual, and Thunder from the Plane. That's my imitation of thunder. I would not be a very good sound man, at least not with my voice like some people can be. And then the next program aired at 8 o'clock in the evening over NBC Blue, and it's the Chamber Music Society of Lower Basin Street. One of the unusual things on this is that they reference, if you remember, if you were listening last Monday, you heard Chamber Music Society of Lower Basin Street, and the opening of the program was screwed up a little bit, and you were probably wondering what is going on here. It sounded like the opening was done off mic a little bit. Well, they referenced that at the opening of this episode. And also another thing to listen for is their guests on this. Their guest is the Twitterbugs Quartet. And who are the Twitterbugs Quartets? You're going to enjoy this. It is some pretty famous radio announcers. You will know their names when you hear them. And then after that, we are going to listen to this aired also at 8 o'clock in the evening. So this was competing right against Chamber Music Society, the summer replacement for the Lux Radio Theater and Forecast. And this episode stars Marlene Dietrich in Arabian Nights. Now, one thing about this program, unfortunately, the last few discs were missing, or the last disc was missing, and it's only 45 minutes long. So I'm sorry there's no ending on it. I apologize for that, but I'm placing it in here for its historical significance, and it's pretty good listening for 45 minutes anyway. And then following Forecast at on NBC Red at 9:30 in the evening, we have the Cavalcade of America and Hutchinson. And this stars Agnes Moorehead, who you heard on the Columbia Workshop, in the video before this, if you're watching this on the playlist, or on Saturday night, if you are watching this on the premiere. So she was pretty active around this time. Agnes Moorehead, great actress. Great radio actress in particular. All right, let's turn on this old tube radio. I'm having trouble talking. Let's turn on this old tube radio. That's our time machine, and give this stuff a listen.
Si, dans le cœur de chaque homme sur la terre, la date du 14 juillet remue quelque chose de grand, c'est parce que cette fête nationale française est la fête de la liberté.
This French National Day is a celebration of freedom.
Lui prodigue la liberté. C'est l'idéal pour lequel, de tout temps, les meilleurs parmi les hommes ont su combattre et mourir. Or, des forces terribles sont à l'œuvre pour détruire d'État en État, de continent en continent.
Dreadful powers are at work to destroy the freedom of all mankind.
Déjà, l'Europe, depuis Minsk jusqu'à Bordeaux, depuis Athènes,
all Europe lies crushed beneath their tyranny.
est écrasée par la tyrannie. Et cette tyrannie est totale. Car dans la guerre de Hitler, il ne s'agit pas d'une force militaire triomphant d'une autre pour la conquête d'une province ou le paiement d'une indemnité. Mais il s'agit d'un système intégral d'esclavage imposé aux vaincus.
In Hitler's war, it is a question of subjecting the vanquished to a system of slavery, absolute and unrelieved slavery.
Sinon, au gré du tyran, esclavage économique, sous couvert d'organisation.
There is bodily slavery and there is economic slavery.
Tous les biens, privés ou collectifs, sont mis au pillage par l'Allemagne. Et chaque nation, quels que soient les produits de ses champs et la puissance à ses usines, est placée pour sa subsistance.
Every nation is dependent for its daily bread on utter subjection to the conqueror.
Esclavage moral, sous prétexte d'ordre nouveau, Hitler impose à tous par terreur, corruption, propagande.
Finally, there is slavery of the soul.
De renier jusqu'à Dieu. Mais voici que les hommes libres du monde entier unissent leur juste colère.
Free men throughout the entire world are now uniting in their righteous anger.
Ils discernent. Et suivant le mot du président Franklin Roosevelt, les succès de la tyrannie n'ont tenu qu'à leur division.
They understand that, as President Franklin Roosevelt has said, it is only through their disunion that the triumph has succeeded.
Les valides, regrettants et blessés pour précipiter Hitler et son système dans l'abîme des malédictions. Aujourd'hui, 14 juillet, soyez sûrs que cette pensée d'espoir, où vous autres, Américains, entrez pour une très large part, remplit...
Today, on this 14th day of July, you may be sure that this hope, in which you people of America figure so largely, fills the souls of the French.
dans l'histoire du monde. Les plus grandes actions des plus grands peuples sont leur lutte pour la liberté. Cela est vrai pour mon pays, et cela est vrai pour le vôtre.
In the world's history, the greatest deeds of the greatest peoples have been their struggles for freedom. This is true of my country as it is true of your own.
Stay tuned next for Prime Minister Winston Churchill.
London is so vast and so strong that she is like a prehistoric monster into whose armored hide showers of arrows can be shot in vain. But a frightful measure of cruelty has been inflicted upon the great cities and seaports of the country. And I say here, when we are entitled to speak of London affairs, particularly, I say here, that we honor them for their constancy in a comradeship of suffering, of endurance, and of triumph. That comradeship under this unprecedented, novel pressure, hideous pressure, applied to modern communities, has united us all, and it has proved to the world the quality of our island life. I have no doubt whatever, as I said to the forces, the civil defense forces in Hyde Park this morning, that the behavior of the British people under this trial gained them conquests in the mind, spirit, sympathy of the United States of America, which swept her into an ignominious corner. All the finest tropes of Goebbels' propaganda. We have to ask ourselves this question. Will the bombing attacks of last autumn and winter come back again? Mr. Chairman, we are proceeding on the assumption that they will. Some months ago, I requested my right honorable friend, the Home Secretary and Minister of Home Security, and his principal colleagues, the Minister of Health and others, to make every preparation for the autumn and winter war as if we should have to go through the same ordeal as last year, only rather worse. I am assured that everything is being done in accordance with those directions. The shelters are being strengthened, improved, lighted, and warmed. All arrangements for fire control and fire watching are being improved perpetually. Many new arrangements are being contrived as the result of the hard experience through which we have passed, and the many mistakes, no doubt, we have made, for success is the result of making many mistakes and learning from experience. Many new arrangements have been made, and if the lull is to end, if the storm is to renew itself, London will be ready. London will not flinch. London can take it again. We ask no favors of the enemy. We seek from them no compunction. On the contrary, if tonight the people of London were asked to cast their votes as to whether a convention should be entered into to stop the bombing of all cities, an overwhelming majority would cry, no, we will mete out to the Germans the measure, and more than the measure, they have meted out to us. people of London with one voice would say to Hitler, "You have committed every crime under the sun. Where you have been the least resisted, there you have been the most brutal. It was you who began the indiscriminate bombing. We remember Warsaw in the very first few days of the war. We remember Rotterdam. We have been newly reminded of your habits by the hideous massacre in Belgrade. We know too well the bestial assault you're making upon the Russian people, to whom our hearts go out in their valiant struggle. We will have no truce or parley with you or the grisly gang who work your wicked will. You do your worst, and we will do our best. Perhaps it may be our turn soon. Perhaps it may be our turn now. Ladies and gentlemen.
Later in this speech, he said,
all engaged in our civil defense forces, whether in London or throughout the country, must prepare themselves, ladies and gentlemen, for further heavy assaults. Your organization, your vigilance, your devotion to duty, your zeal for the cause must be raised to the highest intensity. We do not expect to hit without being hit back, and we intend with every week that passes to hit harder. Prepare yourselves then. Prepare yourselves, my friends and comrades, in the Battle of London for the renewal of your exertions. We shall not turn from our purpose, however somber the road, however grievous the cost, because we know that out of this time of trial and tribulation will be born a new freedom and glory for all mankind.
Stay tuned for a special broadcast.
From my last talk to you, I should like to tell you of the day on which I was shot down. Not because it was in any way remarkable, but because it has naturally enough remained clear in my memory, and is at the same time a fairly typical day in the life of a squadron. September the 3rd dawned dark and overcast, with a slight breeze ruffling the water of the estuary. Hornchurch wore its usual morning pallor of yellow fog, making visibility practically impossible. From time to time, a balloon would poke its head grotesquely through the mist as though looking for possible victim, falling back again like some tired monster. We came out onto the tarmac at about 8 o'clock to find that during the night our machines had been moved from the dispersal point over to the hangars, while all the machine tools, oil, and general equipment had been left on the far side of the aerodrome. I was seriously worried, as after a recent bombing ordeal, my plane had been fitted out with a brand new hood. This hood, unfortunately, wouldn't open, and with a depleted ground staff and no tools, I began to fear it never would. But miraculously, Uncle George, our squadron leader, produced a lorry and 3 men, who quickly returned with a large file and some lubricating oil. Whereupon the corporal fitter and I set upon the hood with a fury of haste, taking it turn by turn to file and oil and file, until at last the hood began to move, but agonizingly slowly. By 10 o'clock, when the mist had cleared and the sun was blazing out of a clear sky, it was still sticking firmly halfway along the groove. At 10:15, what I'd feared for the last hour happened. Down the tannoy came the emotionless voice of the controller. 603 Squadron, take off from patrol base. You will receive further orders in the air. 603 Squadron, take off as quickly as you can, please. As I pressed the starter and the engine roared into life, the corporal stepped back and crossed his fingers significantly. I felt the usual sick feeling in the pit of the stomach, as though I were about to row a race, and then I was too busy getting into position to feel anything. Uncle George in the leading section took off in a cloud of dust. Brian Carberry looked across and put up his thumbs. I nodded and opened up to take off for the last time from Hornchurch. I was flying number 3 in Brown's section, with Stapleton on the right. The third section consisted of only 2 machines, so that our squadron strength was 8. We headed southeast, climbing all out on a steady course. At about 12,000 feet, we came up through the clouds, and looking down, I saw them spread out below me like layers of whipped cream. The sun was brilliant and made it difficult to see even the next plane when turning. I was peering anxiously ahead as the controller had given us warning of at least 50 enemy fighters approaching very high. When we did first sight them, nobody shouted, as I think everyone saw them at the same moment. They must have been 500 to 1,000 feet above us and coming straight on like a huge swarm of locusts. I remember cursing and automatically going into line astern. The next moment we were in among them, and it was each man for himself. As soon as they saw us, they spread out and dived, and the next 10 minutes was a blur of twisting machines and tracer bullets. One Messerschmitt went down in a sheet of flames on my right, and a Spitfire hurtled past in a half roll. I was weaving and turning in a desperate attempt to gain height, with the machine practically hanging on the air screw. Then, just below me, and to my left, I saw what I'd been praying for. A Messerschmitt climbing and away from the sun. I closed in to 200 yards, and from slightly to one side, gave him a 2-second burst. Fabric ripped off the wing and black smoke poured from the engine, but he didn't go down. Like a fool, I didn't break away, but put in another 3-second burst. Red flame shot upwards and he spiraled out of sight. At that moment, I felt a terrific explosion which knocked the control stick from my hand, and the whole machine quivered like a stricken animal. In a second, the cockpit was a mass of flame. I reached up to open the hood. It wouldn't move. I tore off my straps and managed to force it back. But this took time, and when I dropped back into the seat and reached for the stick in an effort to turn the plane onto its back, the heat was so intense that I could feel myself going. I remember thinking, so this is it, and putting both my hands up to my eyes. Then I passed out. I regained consciousness free of the machine and falling rapidly. I pulled the ripcord of my parachute and checked my descent with a jerk. Looking down, I saw that my left trouser leg was burnt off, that I was going to fall into the sea, and that the English coast was deplorably far away. About 20 feet above the water, I attempted to undo my parachute, failed, and flopped into the sea with it billowing around me. The water was not unwarm, and I was pleasantly surprised to find that my life jacket kept me afloat. I looked at my watch. It was not there. Then for the first time I noticed how burnt my hands were. Down to the wrist the skin was dead white and hung in shreds. I felt faintly sick from the smell of burnt flesh. By closing one eye I could see my lips jutting out like Michelin tires, while the side of my parachute harness was particularly painful, so that I guessed my right hip was burnt. I made a further attempt to undo the harness, but owing to the pain in my hands, soon desisted. Instead, I lay back and reviewed my position. I was a long way from land. My hands were burnt, and so, judging from the pain of the sun, was my face. It was unlikely that anyone on shore had seen me come down, and even more unlikely that a ship would come by. I could float for possibly 4 hours in my life jacket. I began to feel that I was perhaps premature in considering myself lucky to have escaped from the machine. After about half an hour, my teeth started chattering, and to quieten them, I kept up a regular, tuneless chant, varying it from time to time with calls for help. There can be few more futile pastimes than yelling for help, alone in the North Sea with a solitary seagull for company. Yet it gave me a certain melancholy satisfaction, for I had once written a short story in which the hero, falling from a liner, had done just this. It was rejected. The water now seemed much colder, and I noticed with surprise that the sun had gone in, though my face was still burning. I looked down at my hands, and not seeing them, realized that I'd gone blind. So I was going to die. It came to me like that. I was going to die, and oddly enough, I was not afraid. This realization came as a surprise to me. The manner of my approaching demise appalled and horrified me, but the actual vision of death left me unmoved. I felt only a profound curiosity and a sense of satisfaction that within a few minutes, or a few hours, I was to discover the answer to the question civilization had never solved. I decided that it should be in a few minutes. I had no qualms about hurrying things along a bit, and reaching up, I managed to unscrew the valve of my life jacket. The air escaped in a rush, and my head went under water. It is said by people all but dead from the sea that drowning is a pleasant death. I didn't find it so. I swallowed a large quantity of water before my head came up again, but derived little satisfaction from it. I tried again, to find that I couldn't get my face under. I was so enmeshed in my parachute that I couldn't move. For the next 10 minutes, I tore my hands to ribbons on the spring release catch. It was stuck fast. I lay back exhausted, and then I started to laugh. I was probably hysterical, but my grand gesture of suicide, being so oddly thwarted, struck me as grotesque. Goethe once wrote as a young man that no one, unless he had led the full life and realized himself completely, had the right to take his own life. Providence seemed determined that I should not incur the great man's displeasure. It has often been said that a dying man relives his whole life in one rapid kaleidoscope. I merely thought rather gloomily of the squadron returning, of my mother at home, and of the few people who had missed me. Outside my family, I could count those on the fingers of one hand. What did gratify me enormously was to find that I indulged in no frantic abasements or prayers to the Almighty. It is an old jibe by God-fearing Christians that the irreligious always change their tune when about to die. I was pleased to be able to prove them wrong. Faced with an indeterminate period of waiting, I began to feel depressingly lonely and sought for some means to take my mind off my plight. Knowing that I must soon become delirious, I attempted to hasten the process by encouraging my mind to wander vaguely and aimlessly, and I experienced a certain peace. Then I forced myself to think of something concrete and found that I was still only too lucid. I went on doing this with varying success until I was picked up. I remember hearing somebody shout, as if in a dream. It seemed so far away and quite unconnected with me. Then, willing arms were dragging me over the side. My parachute was taken off, and with such ease. A brandy flask was pushed between my lips. A voice said, "Okay, it's Joe." One of ours, and still kicking, and I was safe. I was neither relieved nor angry. I was past caring. It was to the Margate lifeboat that I owed my rescue. Watchers on the coast had seen me come down, and for 3 hours they'd been searching for me. Owing to wrong directions, they were just giving up and turning back for land, when, ironically enough, one of them saw my parachute. They were then 15 miles east of Margate, and I had been in the sea 3.5 hours. While in the water, I had been numb and felt very little pain. Now that I began to thaw out, the agony was such that I could have cried out. The good fellows made me as comfortable as possible, put up some sort of awning to keep the sun from my face, and phoned through for a doctor. After what seemed an eternity, we reached the shore. I was put into an ambulance and driven rapidly to hospital. Through all this, I was quite conscious, though unable to see. Arrived at the hospital, they cut off my uniform. I gave the requisite information to a nurse about my next of kin, and then, to my infinite relief, felt a hypodermic syringe pushed into my arm. I can't help feeling that perhaps a good epitaph for me would be that verse of Verlaine's. Tout que son patrie et sans roi, et très brave ne l'est en guerre. J'ai voulu mourir à la guerre. La mort n'a pas voulu de moi.
Stay tuned next for the American Farmer Program.
Now, howdy, neighbors. This is John Merrifield speaking. We're just 1 mile south of Park City, Kentucky, on Route number 31W. Now, driving down the road, we came across a sign that said Reptile Garden, 5 miles. A little farther on, we came across another sign that said Reptile Garden, 4 miles, and so on down until we found ourselves at the gate of a very beautiful park with the sign outside that said Reptile Gardens. And as long as we hadn't seen anything like it before, and we thought that you'd like to take a look into the matter and see what goes on. Our host for the day is Jack Raymond, owner of the garden. And Mr. Raymond, we're mighty happy to be here. We feel that this is a very happy place to spend a vacation, but not as a regular diet for everybody like you do. How do you manage it?
You mean picking up and handling snakes?
Yes, that's what we mean.
Well, I've been working with snakes for many, many years, lecturing. I travel with the lecture bureau out of Chicago, lecturing before universities, high schools, and colleges. I've lectured now in over 2,000 high schools, colleges, and universities in about 42 states.
Well, you must know quite a bit about snakes, and you know, we feel rather strongly that any vacation should be taken up with a little bit of search after knowledge, and we don't know a whole lot about snakes, so would you mind telling us something about the reptiles?
Well, you ask me the questions, and I'll answer you. Maybe we'll get better that way, because if I start, I'll run on here too long.
All right, Jack, assuming that you're a snake expert and that you know all there is to know about the snakes, how many different kinds of snakes are there in the United States?
Well, we have about 2,300 different kinds of snakes in the world. In the United States, we only have about 135, and out of all the 135, we only have 4 that are poisonous.
Only 4 different types of snakes in the United States that are poisonous?
That's right.
All right, what are those 4, Jack?
Well, the rattlesnake, the cottonmouth moccasin, the copperhead, and the coral snake.
Well, now, would you mind telling us how we can tell those snakes from other types of snakes?
Well, for a herpetologist, that's the man that studies reptiles, it's very easy to distinguish, just like you distinguish between a possibly Chevrolet Coupe and a Ford sedan or something like that. But the way to tell a snake is by the eye pupil in the United States. If the eye pupil runs up and down, vertical, like a cat's eye, that is a poisonous snake, with exception of your corals. The next time you happen to get out in the woods anyway and you see a snake, you get right down on your hands and knees and crawl up close, look him in the eye, and if he has a vertical eye pupil, you know he's a poisonous snake.
That is, the next time I get out in the woods.
Yes.
Well, I think I'll stay close to home and go to work rather than go out in the woods to do that. Now, isn't there some other way that you can tell without getting down and looking the snake in the eye?
Yes, by the markings. Your rattlesnake with a never-failing mark of the rattle on the end of the tail, the buzzing rattle. That's very pronounced, and you can't miss that. Then your copperhead. That's a copper-colored snake with hourglass or dumbbell markings on his back. A little fella, not very large, something about the size of your finger, runs 15, 18, 20, sometimes 30 inches in length. Copper-colored snake, but your moccasin. Cottonmouth moccasin. He's found in the Southland. He comes up the Mississippi River as far as southern Missouri. He has a keel scale, little plate over the eye, rusty, dark-colored snake, very fat, thick, short, squat in the body. That's the cottonmouth moccasin. And they all are known as pit vipers. They have 2 fangs in the upper jaw, 2 holes in the cheek. And they're a member of the old world pit viper family. When they strike, the fangs come forward, they throw the fangs out, then they strike and inject the venom in that manner. And it only takes 1 drop of snake poison to kill you.
Well, now, Jack, what is a good, safe cure or good, safe remedy against snake bite?
Well, I could tell you a lot of the old-time remedies, but we better get to the new type of remedy, which is the suction cup method. The first thing to do in the treatment of snake bite is to lay your patient down. Keep them perfectly quiet. Then you apply a tourniquet about 4 inches between the bite and the heart. You tighten up on the tourniquet, leave it on not over 20 minutes. Then you open that for a few seconds' time, allowing the blood to flow through the wound so gangrene will not set in. Take a very sharp knife, cut down across the snake bite wound, join it with a cross incision like that, and then apply your suction cup, your mechanical suction cup, which you can purchase through numerous medical companies throughout the country. And after applying your suction cup in there for about 20 minutes out of the hour, get a doctor as soon as you can, of course. Take the poison out. And remember that many person dies from shock, and they oftentimes do not die until 12, 14, 16 hours after the bite. So keep the patient quiet. Doctor, medical aid as soon as you can. If you do not have a suction cup, then you can use your mouth and suck out the poison, but be sure that you have no crack or abrasion in your lip. because if the poison gets in there, it'll poison affect you. Of course, you can put snake poison in a glass and drink it right down in your stomach. It'll not bother you at all. And then we have the antivenom serum.
Well, now, in other words, Jack, these remedies that you've just mentioned are more or less first aid measures. The best thing, of course, is to get a doctor as soon as you can.
Get a doctor and apply your first aid treatment, yes.
Well, thank you very much, Jack, for telling us how to take care of snake bite if we ever have the misfortune to be bitten by a snake. We hope we don't. But now, here's something that is of vast interest to every farmer in Kentuckiana. And first thing, are snakes of any help to farming?
Oh, by all means. Snakes are very good rodent killers. You take your bull snake. The average bull snake will kill about 30 rats a year. And each rat does about $5 worth of damage to the farmer's crop. So a good bull snake on your farm is worth about $150 to you. Never kill a non-poisonous snake.
You know, you got something there. Back home, Mother always used to get a bull snake or a black snake and put him out in the tomato patch to get the moles that had a funny habit of wanting to get after those just ripe tomatoes before we got a chance to get them.
Yeah, they do.
It worked, too.
It sure does.
Well, now, Jack, would you mind showing us some of these snakes around here?
Well, let's walk over at the rattlesnake.
What's in this pit over here, coming right over here?
Well, over here we have rattlesnakes, the Texas diamondback rattler.
Can you hear them? Did you hear them, neighbors? We got as close to this pit of rattlesnakes as we cared to do and to hold the microphone. Jack, would you mind getting a little closer if you're not afraid of them?
I'll drop it down here for you.
Our neighbors, Jack had this microphone within 3 inches of one of the biggest rattlesnakes' head in there. He's got more nerve than we've got, and we're glad he's around to do the job. Jack, what kind of a snake is that big?
That big fella down there is between 5 and 6 feet long. That's what we call a Florida diamondback rattlesnake. He accounts for more deaths than possibly any other snake in the United States. His fang's about 1 inch long. These others in the corner over here, about 13 rattlesnakes in this pit. The others you see are what they call the Texas diamondback rattlesnake. You want to see a Kentucky rattlesnake?
Yes, I'd like to see a kind of a snake that's native to Kentucky, a rattlesnake that's native to Kentucky. Well, neighbors, here he comes. He's a little smaller than the rest of these snakes.
Well, keep backing away from me.
Yeah, I'm keeping backing away from you. Go ahead, Jack, you talk.
That is what we call the Kentucky or the timber rattlesnake, a native through Kentucky and Tennessee. A venomous snake. You notice the eye pupil running up and down? You see it in there?
Yes, I see just what you mean.
Yeah. Well, you and I will get along fine, just so you don't call me a snake charmer. That's the only thing that makes a herpetologist mad.
Well, we prefer that word herpetologist. It's a much better sounding word anyway. And now, Jack, do you mind if old farm boy just sort of asks you to close the lid to the pit viper pit?
All right.
And while they're closing the lid, I'd like to go over here and meet some of the folks that are down here spending their vacation. How do you do, neighbor? Would you mind telling us where you're from?
Mr. and Mrs. Tom Waller of Paducah, Kentucky.
Are you on a vacation, Mr. Waller?
No, sir, just passing by on business and stopped in to see the snakes.
Well, it's certainly an interesting stop, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Well, Mr. Waller, what has impressed you most about the reptile gardens?
The rattlesnakes.
And now let me ask you, Mr. Waller, so far they've impressed us the most, too. That Kentucky timber rattler was just a little bit too close for comfort. But let me ask you, are you in any type of business where knowing about snakes is going to help you?
No.
But you're in a type of living where knowing about snakes is going to help you, aren't you?
Yes.
May we speak to Mrs. Waller?
Yes.
Mrs. Waller, would you come over here a minute, please? We're sort of at the end of our... Oh, come on. Come on, we're just sort of at the end of our rope. We can't go any farther. You're going to have to ask you to come over here. Mrs. Waller, you don't seem to be a bit frightened of these snakes.
Well, yes, I am.
Well,
I don't want to get too close.
You have a lot of poise that we would never know it.
Well, I don't care for them anyway.
Now, are you interested in the study of wildlife?
Yes, I like it.
Have you ever had an opportunity to study so many snakes at first hand before?
No, I haven't.
Now, what is the thing that has impressed you most here?
I think the rattlers.
Yes, it seems like these rattlesnakes impress everybody more than any other snake here. Now, if we can, we'd like to talk to Mr. Raymond again. Mr. Raymond, I wonder if we can speak to Bill. Bill Raymond, neighbors, Mr. Raymond's boy, and I reckon Bill knows quite a bit about snakes, too. How about that, Bill?
Well, just about as much as the old man, but not quite yet. Give me a little time, though.
You're going to be a herpetologist, too?
Well, I hope I probably will, yeah.
Well, it's certainly is an interesting and fascinating study. And now, Bill, I wonder if you would just take a few moments to tell us something about some of the snakes around here that are not poisonous. That is, some of these other snakes. I notice you've been handling them quite freely.
Oh, yeah, we handle all these snakes out here, and most of them are non-poisonous. And you have your common black snake, and blue racers and king snakes and such as that through here, and you have little common water snake, too. And that's a lot of times mistaken for a cottonmouth. And the water snake you find up north is not a poisonous snake.
Well, now, Bill, between you and I, do you think it's a good idea to not start to worry very much about whether the snake is poisonous or non-poisonous, but just get away from it as quick as you can?
Well, you mean if you find it out in the woods?
Yeah.
Well, if you see a snake, the best thing is just stand back and look at it. 3 feet away from any snake, you're safe in this country. And so that's not so bad that way. And you can stand back and look at it and maybe tell what it is then.
Well, that's fine. We certainly are going to remember that little hint. Any snake that we see, we're going to stay 3 feet or more.
Or more.
Away
It's
from it,
usually
yes.
more.
3 feet or more. I think also I'll climb the nearest tree. I'm not afraid of snakes, neighbors, but just being careful. And now, Jack, Mr. Raymond, what is the most important thing in the study of snakes? That is, what can folks who don't know a whole lot about snakes, folks who are not herpetologists, get out of the study of snakes?
Well, I think the lack of fear and misunderstanding. There isn't anything that has as much fear as a snake, way back since the days of Adam and Eve. Asclepius and Hygiene, the goddess of health in there. Superstition's been handed down. People believe that snakes will milk a cow. They believe that a mother snake will open her throat, and all the baby snakes will run down her throat for protection. They believe that you can put a horsehair rope around the outside of a campfire. The snake will not crawl over it. And the most common fable or belief is that a snake will place its tail in its mouth and roll down the hill like a hook, and you jump behind the tree for safety, and the snake will stick the tail in the tree, and then the tree will all begin to wither and die. And people come in our place here with a complete misunderstanding of snakes, and they end up by being photographed with them and a better understanding. And what we're trying to give them is a scientific and educational display of reptiles of North America and break down all that fear and superstition. Snakes are a very clean animal. They're not cold or clammy. Make very nice pets. You can go out in the woods and pick up a snake and domesticate it within an hour and handle it with perfect safety. Though with our poisonous snakes, we have them all safely covered in pits where the people can look at them. And for many, many a person, this is the first time lots of people have ever heard a rattlesnake rattle. They have seen rattles and heard about them, but never heard them rattle.
Well, Jack, that's the first time a rattlesnake has been within 6 inches of my face, the way that Kentucky timber rattler was. I'm a little shaky about it. You don't mind if I be honest, do you?
Oh, no. Most everyone is when they first come in. We had a man in here last week. His wife could hardly get him in the door out here, and after he came in, he walked around. He went around twice. He stayed most of the afternoon. You mind if I mention his name?
Not a bit.
Well, Mr. Terry L. Hatchett over in Glasgow, and he was a very, very proud admirer of our snakes, and I think he was in here most of the afternoon. They had enough time getting him in, though.
Well, Jack, now, we remember that you said a lot of folks have their pictures taken down around here holding snakes. What is the biggest snake that you could take a picture of a person holding?
Well, possibly Aunt Dinah over there. That is our Florida diamond. Well, no, let's see, that would be the Florida indigo, wouldn't it? Yes, the Florida indigo. It's about 8 feet long. I've had that snake since last October. It's been handled by thousands of school children all over the country. In fact, I made a lecture trip in New York on 12 weeks. And I carried that snake with me, and I still have her here now. And that's the one we use for people to be photographed. We call her Aunt Dinah.
Do you have very many more pets, such as Aunt Dinah?
Oh, we have about 150 snakes here, all kinds. You see, we have the crowd standing around that big water snake pit over there now, the moccasin pit, rather. That's full of moccasins, about 23 moccasins in there. Then this round pit over here, we have all kinds of snakes, variety of snakes in there. And then the boxes around, we have practically everything in here that we can collect all over the country. In fact, we have about 200 pounds of water snake coming in today from down in Memphis by a collector. The rattlesnakes you're listening to there were just sent in to us last Saturday. The one that I held in my hand was a new one, only been handled and picked up a few times, though the Kentucky rattlesnake is a rather gentle snake. He can be handled with comparative safety after a certain length of time.
Well, thank you very much for putting my mind at ease as to his gentleness. And we noticed, Jack, that one of those water moccasins over there is going to become a mother very shortly and perhaps have as many as 90 small snakes. That'll be something for a great many folks to see. Now, Neighbors, as long as we're just on a sort of a vacation tour, what do you say that we just hop right from here and drive over to Mammoth Cave? It's not very far away. We'll go over there to Mammoth Cave and see what the caves of Kentucky look like. There are a great many other vacation spots in Kentucky and in Indiana that we can all enjoy. So what do you say we go over to Mammoth Cave and see what it looks like over there?
Stay tuned next for The Goldbergs.
And now, The Goldbergs. In everyday life, it's sometimes the understanding and the sympathy we find among those we live with that we never notice. But these same traits, made precise, scientific, and complete, are the basis for the technique Dr. Cater's been using on Sammy and Sylvia. It was this more than anything else that gave Molly Goldberg the confidence which supported her during Sammy's illness and Sylvia's presence at Glastonbury. And now, Sylvia says she's fallen in love with Dr. Cater. Just where it will lead her and just what effect it will have on Sammy, we don't know yet. But late tonight, on the day of the strange picnic, which Dr. Cater created for his two young patients, Molly's sitting home with Rosie.
The time is what, Rosalie?
It certainly should be dark by now.
Not so loud, Rosalie, please, not so loud. I don't want Papa to start in again, please. Jake, dear. Where's Papa? Peekaboo inside, darling.
He was reading his paper.
Go see Mama, please. No?
He's in there.
He's in there? So why didn't he answer to me? Jake, dear. Dearest. Want to play solitaire?
He's upset again.
That again. Put some fruit to the table. And a little cold lemonade. I made it special in case somebody should fall in. Jake, dear, are you snoozing?
I'm not snoozing.
So come in here if you're not snoozing. Come in, dear. Stay here.
Look at the time, look. A boy just out of a sick bed.
Not so late, dear. With the daylight saving and the east and western time, it stays light, and before it's dark, it's late, and it's not late, Jake. Sit, dear.
Where did Allison went?
He went to write some letters and then expire. He's tired. The climate of the northern atmosphere makes him sleepy, he said.
I wish he'd wake up and take his daughter home already. That's what I wish.
No, Rosalie, you're bringing the lemonade? Papa don't like it sweet.
Papa can't take anything sweet anymore, Rosalie. It's been so sour for me for so long. You hear?
Oh, Jake, please.
Now, don't start. Because if you do, I'll spoil your evening and mine. Better be quiet.
Here, Papa, darling. Why didn't you bring it? And Papa would spill himself.
It's all right. You can spill me. Put it down.
You want the cards, Ma? Solitaire? Jake.
Why not? When it comes to solitaire, I should be an expert. I'm always alone. Alone in everything. My wishes, my desires, my ideas, my plans, my entire whole life. Always alone. Nobody to share with me.
Do you mind if I go to bed, Ma? No. Good night. Good night. You're wrong, Pa. You were the one and nobody else that liked Sylvia when this whole thing started. Mama worried, and now when she's willing to take the advice of somebody that she knows more than she does, you're angry. Dr. Cater knows what he's doing. If he asked Sylvia and Sammy out for the day, he's had his reasons. He knows what he's doing.
All right, Rosalie, please.
You have to admit, Pa, that there are some things you don't know.
There are many things I don't know, but they don't include my family. My family, I know. Would that they know me as I know them. Because I like Sylvia once, the blame remains mine forevermore, huh? Very well. I'll take it as I always take it. Good night. Because I like it, no? I have to talk. They blame me all the time. All right, I'll take it. I can take it.
Take back the lemonade. Mom. All right, Rosalie, you said it. Here, put it in the kitchen and bring me a flashlight.
For what, Ma?
I'll close the barn door. If not, it'll flop all night. Where did you put the little box from the car?
It's here someplace.
All right, I have it. Did you water my petunias?
I did, Ma.
Come, you got the flashlight, Rosalie?
Uh-huh. I'll go with you.
Go with me? All right, so come. Look out, Kitty. Look out, Kitty. Don't you want to put something on your shoulder?
No, it's all right, Ma.
Come, open the door, darling.
Look at all the stars. Beautiful. Like the milky red stars are. Come this way, baby. Come. Put on the flashlight. Don't trip, Ma. I wouldn't. Be careful.
Oh, I think the battery's burned out.
Battery's burned out? Oh, it's a light night, you see. Come. This way, down.
All right.
Ma. Yeah?
Wait. Don't you hear voices?
So, Sammy and Sylvia. Walk this way. They shouldn't see us. I don't want them to see us. Walk this way, down. This way, with me.
What you're doing is shutting your eyes and holding out your hands like a child. You're saying, leave me.
Yes, that's what I'm saying, Sammy.
It's wrong.
Why is it wrong? All my life I did things for myself, and look what happened. Maybe there are people like me who can't live any other way. We have to be told. We have to obey.
There's no one in the world like that. Not even the smallest child.
I'm like that. Are you angry with me?
No.
Do you despise me?
No.
I do love him, Sammy.
That's what you said.
That's what I feel. You must think I'm crazy. Saying one day I love you and the next that it's someone else.
No.
Is it true what you said the other night, Sammy?
About what?
You said it was part of Dr. Cater's treatment to...
Well, if you're in love with him, it doesn't matter how it happened.
But you did say it.
I meant that patients sometimes do fall in love with their doctors. They don't realize that the trust they feel, the confidence the doctor inspires in them is part of the treatment. Patients sometimes pushes it too far.
Well, that isn't the way it is with me, Sammy. I love you.
Why do you keep saying that to me?
Oh, I'm sorry. I've harmed you. Hurt you in so many ways. You ought to be glad to get rid of me.
Don't go around blaming yourself. You don't have to be afraid of the whole world. It's changed completely, Sylvia. Don't give up.
I'm not. But, Sammy, I've got to talk to you. I can't talk to anyone else.
Talk to Dr. Cater. I mean, you can talk to him.
I've got to explain to you. I can't just say I've changed and let it go at that. I've no right to.
You don't have to explain anything to me.
It's not right. Oh, Sandy, please. Listen to me.
Yes, Sylvia.
Forgetting everything else. The way I lied, the way I cheated. Forgetting that if you can. I mean, even if I was the girl you first thought I was, we weren't the ones for each other.
Why go through all those things again, Sylvia?
Because we have to be honest. We have to be truthful. That's what Dr. Cater says. We've got to be truthful with each other and act like human beings. We weren't for each other, Sammy. The girl you wanted someone like yourself, with ideas like yours, interested in ideas and books and writing. Someone with enthusiasm and truth like you. Always wanted to understand and make people different and better. Always trying, always hoping. A girl, and even I can say it, like your mother must have been when she was young. Not a girl like me. And I needed someone like Dr. Cater, older than I am and wiser. Someone who could take care of me and tell me what to do. Someone who won't need me the way I need him.
You know who you're describing, Sylvia?
Dr. Cater.
No.
I am.
No. There's only one person in the world who doesn't need you and whom you need. Only one kind of person who'll care for you and help you and expect nothing back. What you want, Sylvia, what you're asking for, what you need, perhaps, is not some man you can love. It's someone who's here. Here now.
I don't understand.
You never tried to. I think, deep down, Sylvia, what you need is not a husband or a lover or a friend.
What else is there?
A father. That's what you need, Sylvia. A father.
As Sammy suddenly glimpsed the goal toward which Dr. Cater's working, Dr. Cater seems well on his way to saving 2 lives from the trap they made for each other.
Stay tuned next for the adventures of Superman.
Presenting the transcription feature, Superman.
Look! Up in the sky!
It's a bird. It's a plane. It's Superman! Yes, it's Superman, strange visitor from the planet Krypton, who came to Earth with powers and abilities far beyond those of mortal men. Superman who can leap tall buildings at a single bound, race a speeding bullet to its target, bend steel in his bare hands, and who, disguised as Clark Kent, mild-mannered reporter for a great metropolitan newspaper, fights a never-ending battle for truth and justice.
And now to our story. With the mystery of the Bartlett logging camp solved and Nancy Harmon on her way to Metropolis to work at the Daily Planet, Clark Kent and Jimmy Olsen, rather than cut their vacation short, have engaged a French-Canadian guide, Baptiste, to take them on a 2-week dog sled trip. The first night out, they camp in a forest clearing where Baptiste amuses them with tall stories of his prowess. But unknown to either Kent or Jimmy, they are being watched. 2 hard-bitten men who occupy a cabin deep in the woods and seem to be engaged in a strange, secretive business are even now moving slowly toward the fire around which Jimmy, Kent, and Baptiste are grouped. Listen.
Hold up a minute, Chuck.
You see him in the clearing?
Yeah, I see him. Which one's the Canuck driver?
The one on the right.
The other guy looks pretty big.
He ain't so big.
All right, now remember what I told you. Keep your mouth shut.
Okay, Bo.
Let's go.
What does Baptiste do? Before moving idols of him, there is no time to put his finger on the gun.
We got you covered. Don't nobody move.
Hey, what is this? Where are you?
Close in on him, Chuck.
Hey, mind pointing those rifles the other way?
Yes, we do mind. Stand up, come on.
I do not like this, monsieur.
We're not interested in whether you like it or not. See what's in the sled, Chuck.
Okay.
May I ask why we're being held up this way? What have we done?
I don't know what you've done, mister, but we're here to see that you don't do any more of it.
I'm sorry, but I don't understand. Any more of what?
Got a license to trap furs?
But we do not have the fur. Sacre bleu, you're crazy.
Keep that big mouth of yours shut or I'll shut it for you.
Nothing in the sled, Bull. Except some sleeping bags.
You're pretty lucky we didn't catch you with no skin. Now pack up and get out of here.
Why, we planned to camp here for the night.
Well, your plans have been changed, mister. Don't give me no argument. Pack up and get.
This I have never heard of. It is insult to Baptiste.
Why do we have to move?
Because this is a government game preserve. You're not allowed to camp on it. Tell your driver to pack up. Chuck, put the fire on.
Okay. Well, afraid we'll have to move, Baptiste. Hitch the dogs up.
Sacre bleu, I've never heard of it.
Are you gentlemen game wardens?
That's it, mister.
Well, where can we camp? Where does the preserve end?
5 miles west of here.
You mean we have to go 5 miles through the darkness?
That ain't my headache, mister. Your driver should have known better. Fire out, Chuck.
Yeah, all but a couple of embers.
Okay. Sorry we had to bust in on you like this, but orders is orders. Good night.
Good night.
That's a nice how do you do. Baptiste is ready to chew nails. Listen to him.
So am I, Jimmy. I don't quite understand this.
Oh, there isn't much to understand. This is a game preserve, they said, and you're not allowed to camp on it.
I wonder.
You wonder what?
I wonder whether it is a game preserve. Certainly Baptiste should know.
What did they think we were, fur trappers?
I guess so.
Well, dogs are hitched up, Mr. Kent. Might as well start.
I think we're going to stay right here, Jimmy.
Good gosh, those game wardens said...
I know what they said. Baptiste!
Oui, monsieur.
We're not moving, Baptiste. We're staying right here. Unhitch the dogs.
You mean this?
Yes, don't light any fires.
What's the idea, Mr. Kent?
Oh, just a hunch.
You think there's something wrong?
Baptiste think he will write the letter to the president.
I don't know, Jimmy. Right now, it's only a hunch. We'll see. Maybe I'm mistaken. Get the dogs unhitched, Baptiste, and be quiet about it.
Baptiste, he is quiet like...
How can we stay here without a fire, Mr. Kent? What about the animals?
We'll take turns sleeping. You and Baptiste start off. I'll sit up and watch.
Well, what if those game wardens come back?
I don't think they will. And if they do, the worst that can happen is they'll tell us to move on again. All right, come on. Let's get the sleeping bags out of the sled.
Getting late. We've got to make an early start in the morning.
As the long northern night wears on, Jimmy and Batiste sleep comfortably in their fur-lined bags. And Clark Kent, alert to every sound, sits up in the darkness. Far off in the distance, a snow owl hoots mournfully. And the dense woods give forth the faintly heard rustle of prowling beasts, drawn near by the spoor of human flesh. Suddenly, Kent sits bolt upright, his keen eyes centered on a tiny pinpoint of green light that seems to be moving across the sky.
That light must be an airplane. Yes, it is. I can hear the sound of the motor.
Inaudible to any ears but those of Superman, the hum of the approaching plane motor grows louder and louder as the invisible ship, marked only by wing lights, circles slowly not far from the forest clearing where Kent, Jimmy, and Batiste have camped.
Whoever's piloting that plane seems to be looking for something. I wonder what it is.
Suddenly, as Kent watches the approaching plane, a gleaming ray of light stabs the darkness, reaching from the black depths of the forest beyond the clearing to the endless heavens above. Once, twice, 3 times it flashes a wordless message to the circling plane. Dropping the guise of Clark Kent, mild-mannered reporter, Superman comes to his feet, every muscle in his magnificent body tense.
Well, looks like my suspicions were justified. Something's going on here. That plane and those signal lights must have some connection with those 2 game wardens. What was that? Sounded like an animal crashing through the brush. No, it couldn't have been. It stopped too suddenly. Wait a minute. I know what it was. That plane dropped something. Yeah, now it's heading back from where it came. I think this deserves a little investigation. I'll just sneak off and see whether I can find out who was responsible for that signal.
Mr. Kent! Mr. Kent!
Uh-oh. Jimmy's awake. I'll have to drop Superman for a while.
Here I am, Jimmy.
Oh, I got frightened when you didn't answer. Something woke me up. A funny noise, like a motor.
Oh, you were probably dreaming. Go on back to sleep.
Oh, isn't it time for me to get up?
No, you still have a good 2 hours.
Oh, okay. Hey, wait a minute. Look up there in the sky. What are those lights?
No, just a couple of stars.
Oh, no, they're not. They're moving.
Don't get out of your sleeping bag, Jimmy. You'll freeze to death.
I'll put my Mackinac on. Mr. Kent, those are airplane lights. That's what I heard, a plane motor.
Well, what of it? Chances are it's a mail plane or maybe even a passenger transport.
Flying over these woods?
Why not? Has to fly over something to get to its destination. All right, come on now. Climb back into your bag. It's gone now, and there's nothing more to see.
Oh, I'm not sleepy anymore. I'll sit up with you.
Now, isn't that silly? It isn't necessary for both of us to be awake.
Well, when you turn in.
Jimmy, sometimes you can be very exasperating.
Oh, gosh, what have I done? Just because I'm not sleepy anymore, does that mean I'm exasperating?
Quiet. Wake Batiste, then all 3 of us will be sitting up.
Gee willikers, I don't get this. I mean to say just because I can't sleep...
All right. Keep your shirt on. It isn't because you can't sleep. It's because you woke up at the wrong time.
I couldn't help that. The plane motor did it.
I know. See, I was just about to sneak away when you started yodeling for me.
Sneak away? You were going to leave us?
Just for a few minutes. Oh, I suppose I might just as well tell you.
Tell me what?
That plane you saw wasn't carrying mail or passengers.
How do you know? Did it land?
No, but it circled 5 or 6 times, evidently looking for something. Then a powerful light flashed a signal to it from a spot deep in the woods.
Gosh.
A minute or so after the signal flashed, I think the plane dropped something.
Oh, what do you think it dropped? A man?
I doubt it very much. Anyway, now you know why your sudden awakening exasperated me.
What are we going to do about the plane and whatever it dropped, Mr. Kent?
Well, the plane's gone, so we can't do much about that.
I know, but we could find out what it dropped and who flashed the signal to it.
Well, that was my plan before you decided you'd had enough sleep.
Oh, now we can both find out.
That's the trouble.
You mean you don't want me to go with you?
Well...
Oh, I see. You think I'll get in the way.
No, it isn't that, Jimmy.
What is it?
Well, sometimes you hamper my movements. You make it, difficult for me to be myself.
Oh, I don't understand what you're driving at, Mr. Kent.
Forget it, Jimmy. It's not important. At any rate, I think we'd better wait until morning to do any prowling in these woods, so you can crawl back into your sleeping bag if you wish.
Oh, no, not a chance. I wouldn't close an eye now for $1 million.
I promise not to sneak away.
Nothing doing.
Okay. You'll be the one who'll be nodding all day tomorrow.
Oh, I'd rather nod than miss anything exciting.
Well, for all we know, it's nothing to get excited about. Maybe that's how the United States Conservation Service drops supplies to its game wardens.
Oh, I meant to ask you, Mr. Kent. What's a game preserve?
Why, it's a tract of land, generally heavily wooded, set aside by the government to protect wild animals and birds.
Oh, protect them against what?
The people who shoot and trap them. You see, Jimmy, a country like the United States owes all its strength and power to its natural resources. Not just the birds and animals, but its rivers and forests and minerals. If any of these are abused or overworked, future generations won't have water power and wood and coal. You remember how they were cutting giant oaks at the logging camp?
Yes.
The government watches that pretty carefully. It has what's called a reforestation service. New oak trees are planted to take the places of the ones cut down, so that 100 years from now or so, America will still have mighty forests.
And the government does all this?
Mm-hmm.
The government in Washington?
Well, the government isn't only in Washington, Jimmy. It's in every state in the Union. It has game wardens, forest rangers, soil conservation experts, and...
What made you stop?
Wait a minute. I thought I heard voices.
I don't hear anything.
Quiet, Jimmy. Listen.
I hear them now. They're coming closer.
Yes.
Think he'd know how to drop them by this time. We're over too far, Bill.
Gosh, Mr. Kent, they're looking for what the plane dropped.
Quiet, Jimmy.
All right, go on back this way. Okay. What's the matter? I turned my ankle.
Good gosh, Mr. Kent, but these dogs are barking. Those men will know we're here.
Keep low, Jimmy. Right on the ground. Don't move a muscle.
With their presence revealed by the barking of Batiste huskies, the two men searching for the package dropped by the mysterious plane cannot help but find Kent, Jimmy, and the Canuck sled driver. Who are these men, and what is the strange mystery surrounding their midnight activities? Evidently, Clark Kent has again stumbled on something exciting. Keep listening for further development.
Don't forget, tune in again for the next thrilling episode with Superman.
Look, up in the sky.
It's a bird. It's a plane. It's Superman. Superman is a copyrighted feature appearing in Action Comics magazine.
Stay tuned next for The Lone Ranger.
Fiery horse with a speed of light, a cloud of dust, and a hearty hi-yo silver, the Lone Ranger. When the open range was thrown open to homesteaders, the ranchers did their best to keep them from settling in the cattle country. They defied the orders from Washington, and violence might have been followed by open warfare if it had not been for the masked rider of the plains. He believed there was a place for both homesteaders and ranchers in the great new territory, and it was his vision of the future that finally led to a better understanding between the two factions. It was he more than any other man who made possible the winning of the West. Return with us now to those thrilling days of yesteryear. From out of the past come the thundering hoofbeats of the great horse Silver. The Lone Ranger rides again.
Come on, Silver! We're heading for sagebrush. Harold's waiting for us. Harold Silver! Away!
The rain had turned the main street of Sagebrush into a quagmire. But Jonathan Merrill had a good team, and the forward progress of the heavy wagon was slow but sure. At last he reined up in front of the general store and turned to his daughter, Rose.
Whoa there, whoa. Here, Rose, you take the reins. This is the last place we can buy supplies before we hit the flats.
You should have driven in closer to the sidewalk. That mud'll be over your boots.
I can jump from here to the sidewalk.
Be careful.
Yep. You see? I'm not too old for a little jump like that.
Don't block the sidewalk, mister.
Watch out, you're pushing me off. Hey!
Paul!
You did that deliberate. Now look at me. Mud from head to foot.
I thought you farmers liked dirt.
Not when it wears pants and calls itself a man.
Watch your talk, sister.
Don't block the sidewalk.
Hey! That's good. You pulled the same trick on him, stranger. I want to thank you for it.
Serves the bully right.
Go for your gun, mister.
Anytime you're ready, Hank.
Oh, you got an engine to back you up.
We'll settle this between ourselves.
Think so? Flying W!
So you think you'll need help?
Sagebrush is a cattle town, see? You'll find out it don't pay to stick up for homesteaders.
We're much obliged, mister, but we run into this sort of thing before. There'll be a gang of roughnecks here in a minute, and you won't stand a chance against a lot of them. You better get on your way while the getting's good.
And what about you and your daughter?
Well, we'll just have to face them. The government land out on the flats just about 10 miles from here is open, and that's where we aim to homestead.
On the flats?
That's what I said, by Stony Creek.
You got another think coming. The flats are flying W grays. Homesteaders ain't welcome there.
It's government land.
You'll learn different. Here's a man to tell you. Boss.
What's up?
I called for the boys because this hombre here was sticking up for the farmer and his girl.
Where'd you collect all the mud?
He pushed me into it.
Just like you pushed the farmer.
Well, yeah, but...
It looks like an even break to me.
Hey, look at Hank. Who dressed you up like a mud pie?
You want to make something of it, that's up to you. We'll stand by and see you get a fair deal.
Well, I guess I had it coming. So won't be laughing when I tell you the rest of it. This here farmer aims to homestead on the flats.
What's that?
By Stony Creek, Tom.
What's your name?
Jonathan Merrill.
I'm Tom Winters of the Flying W. The flats belong to me.
They belong to the government. I've come a long way to homestead there, and nobody's going to stop me.
You ought to know that it's been tried before.
Boss, can I say something?
I'll handle this, Larry.
Larry? Larry Dexter?
That's me, Rose. I came from the same part of Missouri the Merrills did, Tom. Maybe they'll listen to me.
Well, it's been 10 years since you run away, Larry.
Yeah, a long time.
You've changed a lot. I guess you've forgotten your old friends.
No, I haven't.
You promised to write.
I always meant to, but... Well, I'm just a cowboy. All I got's my horse and my saddle and $30 a month.
And now you're going to try and make us move on.
Well, I work for Tom, Rose. It's part of my job to keep that range free of homesteaders. We can't let one of you come in. Not one.
So you'll stop at nothing to keep us out. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yes, we'll stop at nothing.
We aim to homestead on the flats. It's government land.
Well, you've had your warning. I'm going inside here and make sure Eben don't sell you any supplies.
You can't do that.
The next town is 60 miles west. You can try your luck there. As for you, cowboy... Meaning me? Yeah. Stick to your saddle and you'll keep out of trouble.
We'll get along without supplies.
And you'll soon find out the flats are unhealthy. Come on, Hank, inside. You too, Larry. Rest you get back to the ranch. You hear me, Larry?
I'm coming.
Are you sweeting this girl?
Well,
I never want to see him again.
Just don't get any ideas about double-crossing me.
Rose, don't you understand? We need that range. We gotta have it.
I know. And when you won't stop at anything, that means you'd even shoot a woman. The West is a fine country.
Come on.
Right.
Tonto brings Silver. Scout.
I want to thank you once more, stranger, before you say goodbye.
You'll see us again, Merrill.
The rancher warned you what to expect.
You're in the right. You can depend on our help.
Get him up, Scout.
Come on, Silver. trees give us plenty of cover, Tonto. We're less than a mile from the spot where Merrill's starting to build his cabin. We'll camp here until they're out of danger.
That'd be a long time, maybe.
Tonight I want you to ride to Oak Grove again.
You want me get more supplies from Merrill?
No, those we left with him last night will be enough for a week. I'd go myself, but now that I've gotten rid of my disguise and I'm wearing a mask again...
It's not good you go to town.
It's better for me to stay here.
And what you want Tonto do?
Take this message to the telegraph operator. See that it's sent to the marshal at Circle City.
Here, Scout.
And get back as quickly as you can. Winters and his men haven't done anything yet, but I'm sure they'll try to stop Merrill from finishing his cabin. It won't be long before things start to happen.
Tonto, hurry. Get him up, Scout.
What'd you find out?
He's got the cabin half done.
I can see that from here on a clear day.
Yeah, but I think I found out who's bringing him supplies, too.
If it's Eben, I'll wring his neck.
No, it ain't, though. They made friends with some outlaws.
What's that?
I'm telling you. The moon's full, so I could see real good. A masked man and an Injun rode up with some stuff. They dumped it by the wagon where the old man and his daughter are sleeping, and then they rode off without stopping at all.
A masked man and an Injun?
Yeah.
Merrill's buying stolen goods.
I tell you, they didn't stop at all. They just rode off.
Merrill paid him first.
Well, he's getting supplies anyway, and that means you can't starve him out. You got to do something else.
I will. Round up the boys. Larry, I thought you rode into Sagebrush.
I did, but I didn't stay long. I picked up the mail. Look, this letter. I figured it might be important, so I brought it straight out. See what's up in the corner?
United States government.
Office of the Marshal in Circle City. What's he got to say to you?
I don't know.
Circle City? Hey, that's close to 200 miles.
Easy.
Well, I'll be dogged.
What is it?
So this is why he's got nerve enough to go ahead with that cabin.
Huh?
Listen. It's come to my attention that you've threatened Jonathan Merrill with bodily injury. In doing so, you've left yourself open to criminal charges. And if anything happens to said Jonathan Merrill, you'll be held accountable.
No, you can't be.
No interference with homesteaders' rights in the flats will be tolerated. There's other rangeland in your district which has not been open to homesteaders, and I would advise... Oh, he'd advise, huh? Where's there any range with plenty of water like the flats? I'd like him to tell me that.
Mean to say we just got to stand by and let Merrill go ahead with his cabin?
If you think I'm going to do that, you're loco.
You don't want to go to jail, do you?
I won't. Lots of things can happen to Merrill. They will. There's one thing sure, Hank. Dead men don't talk.
You'd kill him?
He's clearing off my land.
Tom, the Merrills are friends of mine once. I don't want nothing to happen to him just because the old man's stubborn. Will you let me go and talk to him?
That won't do no good.
I think it will. Let me try tonight. Can't hurt anything anyway.
I may need all of you boys before the night's over.
Let me have an hour, Tom.
All right, 1 hour. That's all. If you stay any longer at the Merrills, you'll get a surprise.
Good. Let's have some action, that's what I say.
I'll be back. Hold your fire till I get here.
You'd better hurry up, mister. Tom said 1 hour.
There's someone coming, Pa.
Maybe the masked man or Tonto coming back.
What'd they do that for? They think we're asleep.
I sure wish I'd woke up before they got away.
It's only one horse.
Why don't you get back in the wagon?
I've got a gun here, Pa. If this rider means trouble, I can shoot just as good as you can.
Oh, shucks, it's too late for trouble.
Here he comes.
Who are you?
A friend.
It's Larry, Pa. You won't need your gun. What do you want, Mr. Dexter?
Rose, Tom just got a letter from the marshal at Circle City.
Yeah? We sort of figured he might.
It hasn't done you any good to notify the marshal.
We didn't.
Well, you must have.
A friend of ours took care of it.
Well, that letter's just made Tom hopping mad. He gave me 1 hour to come over here and talk to you. After that, well, I can't answer for what'll happen.
We're not afraid of your boss.
You better be, Jonathan. Why don't you pull up stakes and travel another 100 miles to the west?
Is that all you have to say, Mr. Dexter?
I'm your friend, Rose. I don't want anything to happen to you.
We're standing on our rights.
They won't do you much good when you're dead.
You talk just like your boss. But he can't scare us, and neither can you.
But don't you see? You're just being stubborn. You haven't got a chance against the Flying W crew. Tom's got 15 men.
Including you.
No, Rose. Your mind's made up, and I can't do anything to change it. I'm not going back to the ranch.
What's that?
I'm staying here with you, Jonathan. I'm fighting on your side.
You mean it?
Oh, Larry. Now you're proving you're our friend. But we don't ask you to stay. This is our fight, not yours. And I don't want to see you lose your job.
Yeah, that's right. You're a cowboy, not a farmer.
My pa was a farmer. What was good enough for him is good enough for me.
Larry.
Yeah?
I'm glad we've met again.
Same here.
Well, if you mean what you say, we could join forces, son. You homestead next to us, and we'll split up the work.
First thing, Jonathan, I've got to ask you to leave the flats once more.
My mind's made up, and I'm
All right, that's settled. It took me longer than I thought to get here. I ought to be back at the ranch now, and, well, they'll be starting out, Jonathan.
They're coming after us tonight.
Yeah, that's what Tom said. We've got to find some place where Rose will be safe.
I'm not stirring from this spot.
But it's not a woman's place to fight off.
That kind of talk makes sense back home, Larry. But it doesn't out here.
Listen. Horses. They're coming already.
Too bad it's clouded over. We could see them for half a mile.
Get in the wagon anyway, Rose.
That's a good place for all of us, I'd say.
Go ahead. I'll cover you.
Larry!
Get into the wagon.
Larry, don't! Oh, I can't hear their horses anymore. Maybe he's killed him. Maybe he's killed the Lone Ranger.
The curtain falls on the first act of our Lone Ranger story. Before the next exciting scenes, please permit us to pause for just a few moments. Now to continue our story. When Rose Merrill heard the Lone Ranger call to Silver, she tried to stop young Larry Dexter from shooting at him. But the cowboy emptied his gun, and when the shots had died away, there was no sound of approaching hoofbeats. The night was quiet.
Pa, you've got to go and see. You've got to find out if he's hurt.
The Lone Ranger?
Yes. He's been helping us ever since we got here. He was the one who got in touch with the marshal. He's brought us supplies and... Pa...
I'm going. Better come with me, son.
I will.
If you're worried about me, Jonathan, I'm all right.
Masked man.
You're safe.
We're all right, Miss Merrill. We reined up when the shooting started.
That was me. I thought you were Tom and the boys from the ranch.
I don't think you'll have to worry about them tonight.
But when he read that letter from the marshal, he said he
Tom
was...
has brains, Larry. He may have lost his temper for a minute and said a lot of things he's thought better of since.
Well, you may as well know that I've thrown in my lot with Rose and Jonathan. I'm sure that Tom means to drive him out.
I'm sure that he'll try.
And he'll start tonight.
Tuttle and I have just come from the ranch, Larry.
That's right.
We saw the whole crew up at the ranch house. Tom was talking to them, but he sent them back to the bunkhouse, and later the lights went out. Nothing's going to happen tonight.
He said he would...
Don't misunderstand me. He isn't giving up.
It'd be the first time if he did.
He's only looking for some way to clear the flats and still keep out of jail. That's what I meant when I said he had brains.
I'll match yours against his any day, mister. You tell us what to do, and we'll follow orders.
Somehow, some way, Tom is going to set a trap for you. Tonto and I will never be far away, but you must be on your guard every minute.
Oh, sure thing.
Every minute, Jonathan. Night and day. accused a man of murder when the death was accidental, Hank.
Yeah?
Just thinking out loud.
Hey, we've been sitting around doing nothing for 3 days. Why don't you quit thinking and tell us to do something?
I will when the time comes.
Let me go after that renegade Larry, anyway.
Yeah, you'll have your chance. Looks like a storm tonight, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Now you stay close to the cabin at night.
It's all finished now.
Have you seen anything more of the masked man and the engine?
Nope.
Good.
What are you driving at?
Don't send many of the boys out today. We'll need the full crew a little later.
When?
When the storm breaks, Hank. When the storm breaks. Find out why you sent out so many night riders?
Them ride north. Round up big herd.
A roundup at night with the storm coming on?
Drive cows out in open.
Away from any shelter.
That's right. Maybe good you come take look.
I will, Tonto. Here, Silver.
Wind come from north. When storm break, cattle run south.
To the south. We'll take a look, Kemosabe. When we see where they bunch the cattle, we'll know what they plan to do.
Get him up, Scout.
Come on, Silver.
See that lightning?
Yeah. Lit up the whole sky. We're in for a real one.
You better sleep inside the cabin tonight.
No, thanks. I'll make my bed under the wagon. That'll keep me dry.
I got my doubts.
Well, it won't be the first time I've got a little wet. Don't forget what the masked man said. On guard every minute, night and day.
He said Tom had brains. That sure enough means he's got sense enough to keep out of the rain.
I'm staying outside, Jonathan. When the masked man gives an order, I aim to follow it.
Plenty dark.
Yes. We can't really see the crew at all. The cattle are getting more and more restless every minute. And the crew aren't helping matters any. They should be on this side of the herd.
All right.
Unless...
What do you think?
The Merrill cabin is on this side of the creek, due south. That's it, Tonto. They're going to stampede the cattle. A herd this size could level the cabin to the ground. Jonathan and Larry and Rose would be killed. No one would ever know it wasn't an accident.
Herd's got to move now.
And here's the storm. We've got to hurry.
Get him up, Scout. Oh, Silver!
Gone. Wish I'd taken Jonathan's advice. It's a cloudburst. What are you complaining about, Captain? You aren't getting any wetter out there than I am under here. Matter of fact, I think I'll change places with you. That's funny. It's more than the storm that's making them nervous. Hey, that ain't thunder I hear. Sounds more like cattle. A herd on the prod.
Larry!
Masked man. What's up? I can't see a thing. Nothing to be nervy about if it's just a masked man, Captain. Hiya, mister. What's up?
Hurry, Tonto. The cabin. Got Jonathan and Rose. Saddle your horse, Larry. There's a stampede coming this way. We've got to make a run for it.
Saddle's inside the wagon here. We haven't got enough horses.
Yes, we have.
Rose can ride with the captain, but Jonathan and I'll have to stay here and take our chances on the wagon team.
You ride your own horse. Silver and Scout can carry double. We'll head for the rim rock to the south.
That's plenty far.
We won't be safe until we get there. This way, Jonathan! Yes, help your daughter up here.
We're going to leave the cabin.
That's all you can do.
Step up.
You ride with Tonto, Jonathan.
Right.
All set, Larry?
Almost.
I can hear them coming like you can. How many are there?
1,000 head.
Can we get away from them?
It's going to be close. Hurry, Larry.
I'm ready.
Then come on.
Get him up, Scout.
With the storm driving them on, the little band raced south for the rim rock, but always behind them, closer and closer, came the stampeding herd. The thunder in the sky was echoed by thunder from the plains, and the Lone Ranger urged the great horse Silver onward.
Come on, Silver! We've got to reach the canyon ahead of the herd. Faster, Silver! Faster!
Hours later, the storm had spent its fury, and Tom Winters waited in his ranch house for his men to return.
There's somebody. It's almost dawn. About time some of them got back. Reach for the ceiling, Winters. What the? And don't try to make any trouble. You're coming with me. What are you talking about? Get out to the corral and saddle a horse. No outlaw's going to give me orders. I wouldn't argue if I were you. Your men aren't around, and they won't be. Won't be? Hurry up. Oh, I see. You're getting even for what the cattle did to your friend's cabin. How do you know about that? I just took a ride over that way. Answer me one question, Winters. Did you plan to have those people killed? Were they? What if I told you they were? I'd say it served them right. They must have heard those cows coming for miles. There were lots of ways they could have saved themselves. Plenty of time to ride for the rim rock. It was covered by the creek below the big bluff. If they hadn't had enough sense to get out of that cabin, they deserved to die. But you didn't want them to die. I know. I'm not a killer like you. You're making a mistake about me, but I didn't think I'd made a mistake about you. What does that mean? You'll find out by sunup. Get moving. Say, we aren't climbing anymore. The floor of this canyon's sloping down. That's right. Where are you taking me? It won't be long before you can see for yourself. Just as soon as we round the next turn. You don't sound like an outlaw. You don't act like one. If you'd wanted to kill me, you could have done it back at the ranch. Yes, Winters. I don't savvy. This canyon is only about 10 miles from your ranch, and yet you've never followed it. Why should I? It's time someone opened your eyes. Just look down below you. A valley, 30 miles long and 5 miles wide. Well, there's cattle down there. Where'd you come from? It's your cattle. The herd that stampeded last night. How'd you get there? Your own men drove it down. This is your new range, Winters. What's that? You're leaving the flats for good. Not on your life. Isn't this a better range than the flats? Well, I'd have to look at it closer. It ain't quite as level, but... You aren't going in for farming. Stop here, Winters, in front of this cave. Now what? You're a good cattleman, and you're one of the real pioneers in this district. Sure I am. That's why I got a right to the flats. You're giving them up, or the marshal's going to learn what your men did last night. So that's your play. Turning me over to the law. The charge would be attempted murder. I saw your men start the stampede. You can't ring any of them in on it. They just did what I told them to. You're admitting your guilt? And I guess so. I've been thinking about it ever since it happened. I'm the one to blame if they're dead, and I guess I ought to pay for it. What's that shooting? From inside the cave.
Boss!
That's Hank calling.
Boss, they got us all prisoners. They'll send us to jail.
You got away, masked man. I was doing just like you said. Hold him in there till you got everything settled.
You aren't dead.
Oh, not much, Tom.
The girl and Merrill.
I can't complain about my health, Mr. Winters. And Pa's helping Tonto guard your crew.
We're all prisoners, boss. They surprised us right at the foot of this canyon when we started to round up the herd after the stampede.
5 of us against 15 of you.
Yeah, but you had the Lone Ranger. If it hadn't been
The Lone Ranger?
That's him, boss, the masked man. And do what he says. We don't want to go to jail.
What are you asking of me, masked man? That you obey the law. The flats have been opened to homesteaders. You're defying the government when you try to stop them from moving in. This valley here, it's yours for the taking. It's good range, but it isn't good farming land. You'll never be bothered by homesteaders again.
You couldn't ask for any better range, boss.
And we've been living 10 miles away from it for years without even knowing it was here.
Yeah, that's because the canyon looks like it's blind. When the masked man told us to drive the herd up it, I thought he was loco.
Mister, I figured other folks was stubborn and ornery. But I'm the one who gets the medal. I don't deserve it, but you've done me an awful big favor. We'll leave the flats to the homesteaders. You can let them all go now, Tonto. We'll start rounding up the rest of the cattle today. Not today, Winters. The first thing you and your men have to do is rebuild the Merrill cabin. Sure thing. It'll be a pleasure.
A pleasure?
I apologize for the way I've treated you and your pa, Miss Merrill. But I'm going to make up for it. From now on, you'll find me a good neighbor.
Aye, Kimosabe.
I'm ready, Tonto.
Masked man, did he say he'd be a good neighbor?
It's true, Pa.
Well, live and learn.
The West needs all of you, cattlemen and farmers. Just remember that the future of the country depends on your working together. Mister, you can depend on us. Adios.
Get him up.
Away!
story you have just heard is a copyrighted feature of the Lone Ranger, Incorporated.
Stay tuned next for the Chamber Music Society of Lower Basin Street.
Ladies and gentlemen, last week, due to a mechanical difficulty, the opening words of our concert were temporarily lost to posterity. We give them to you now. Greetings, music lovers, and also those of you who don't know A-flat from bull fiddle. This is your chairman, Dr. Gino Hamilton, whose first name is spelled Golden, capital Bantam, presiding at a... Having given you what you missed last week, we will now begin tonight's concert of the no doubt world-renowned Chamber Music Society of Lower Basin Street. Greetings, music lovers, and also those of you who think Mozart's opera Così fan tutti is the name of a bubble dancer. Tonight I am joined by Dr. Henry Levine, Maestro Paul Laval, and Mademoiselle Diane Courtney in welcoming you to another musical gala. As guest vocal group, we are honored to have with us a foursome composed of Professors Harry Von Zell, Ben Grauer, George Hicks, and Mark Hawley, widely known in classical circles as the Tonsorial Twitterbugs Quartet. As solo instrumentalist, we will present the world-famed virtuoso Dr. Nunzio Toots Mondello, who, while learning to play the saxophone over the neighbors' protest, also won fame as an escape artist. But the audience has become hushed and expectant, doubtless fascinated by Dr. Levine's efforts to walk a straight line. Maestro Paul Laval mounts the podium, and our concert begins with one of his own works, The March of the Goons. Surprised to learn that Mademoiselle Diane Courtney is a graduate of one of the best-known conservatories in all New England. After she graduated, however, she turned to popular music and began to sing with gusto and abandon, being billed on club dates as the Gusto, Courtney, and Abandon Trio. Later, the trio became a sextet by adding three singers named Eclat, Elan, and Schmaltz. Mademoiselle Courtney now demonstrates for us the vocal dexterity which won for her the wild plaudits of music lovers in London's Covent Garden. Correction, that name should be the Covent Pretzel Parlor, Brooklyn. Mademoiselle Diane Courtney singing the folk ballade Long, Long Ago.
you love as you loved oh, so long ago. Do you remember the path where we met long ago? Ah, yes, you told me you'd never forget. That was a long time ago. 2 hours may not seem a long time to you, but 2 hours is too long away from you. My heart still treasures the love words I heard 2 hours ago, long, long ago. Long, long ago.
The renown of our guest soloist, the alto saxophone virtuoso, Dr. Nunzio Toots Mondello, is as great in the far corners of the globe as it is in our own land. That statement should make everybody happy, since it cannot be proved one way or the other. Actually, Dr. Toots is a musician's musician. He has played with some of America's biggest bands, and he won Metronome Magazine's contest to choose America's best first alto saxophonist. While listening to Dr. Mondello late one night in Dr. Benny Goodman's band, a long-haired critic said of him, between hiccups, quote, "Mondello makes the saxophone painless, if possible," unquote. The musicians in both our chamber groups now join Dr. Toots Mondello in a concerto, his painless, if possible, version of Dark Eyes. Thank you, Dr. Toots Mondello. Until later. Dr. Henry Levine was greatly upset recently when he received a letter from one of his many admirers, an out-of-work musician and music lover who has taken out squatters' rights in the Bronx Public Library. "You should take the cure," says the letter. "You boast of your syncopation. And right here in this dictionary it says that syncopation is an irregular procession from bar to bar." The selection Dr. Levine has programmed probably will not help matters any. It is Swanee River, originally written as a schottish, but rearranged by the good doctor as a half schottish. Dr. Levine, himself, his trumpet, and Swanee River. The Society sets a record by presenting not one intermission commentator, but four, all internationally noted musicologists. They're all members of the Tonsorial Twitterbugs Quartet, operating under special license from the American Society for the Preservation and Encouragement of Barbershop Quartet Singing. Hereinafter, the Society will be referred to simply as the ASFTPAEOBQS. Professionally and artistically, the Tonsorial Twitterbugs are all singers, having sung continuously since they were little shavers. By hobby, they're all famous as... What is it you're famous as, gentlemen?
Radio announcer, dope.
Oh, yes. They're all famous as radio announcer dopes. First, I should like to introduce Professor Harry Von Zell.
Hi, Polloy.
Professor Von Zell is a great singer, but he is very popular with commercial sponsors because when he laughs, everybody thinks it's funny. See what we mean? We now present Professor George Hicks. Professor Hicks, do you find your strenuous vocal work hard on your voice?
Oh, no, indeed, Dr. Hamilton. Not hard on our voices. You see, we sing mostly at smokers and stag teas. Our singing usually is hardest on the elbow.
I see. And here is the third member of the quartet, Professor Mark Hawley. Professor Hawley, would you tell us why the quartet insisted on singing tonight with a curtain between you and the audience?
Purely a matter of acoustics, Dr. Hamilton. Purely a matter of acoustics. Besides, we tried it with the curtain up and it ain't safe.
I see. Finally, here is Professor Bennett F. Grauer. Professor Grauer, do you feel that your singing aids in the spread of culture?
Well, I think definitely it does, Dr. Hamilton. All our audiences do get culture. You see, we're the only quartet that carries its own bouncer. Our audiences either get culture or they get.
We are now to have the rare privilege of hearing the internationally noted Tonsorial Twitterbugs Quartet with their pianist-arranger, Charles Touchette.
Some drummers sat at dinner while a waitress brought them food.
They spoke to her familiarly in a manner rather rude.
Then facing her tormentors, with cheeks now burning red,
she looked a perfect picture, as appealingly she said, "My mother
sister who needs protection. No. Oh, excuse me. I've come to this great city to find a brother dear, and you wouldn't dare insult me, sir, if Jack were only here.
Yes, had we not all been dastardly cads, we should have regarded this girl as our very own sister. I hope that she'll forgive us and let us dedicate our remaining years to atonement for this grievous insult.
She may have seen better days when she was in her prime. She may have seen better days once upon a time. Though by the wayside she fell, she may yet mend her ways.
Somewhere a mother is waiting for her,
who has seen better days, seen better days.
Thank you, gentlemen. And we hope your efforts in behalf of culture will be appreciated. Maestro Paul Laval now brings us his super modern version of I Dreamt I Dwelt in Harlem. Coming after the tonsorial twitterbugs, this is somewhat like one nightmare hitchhiking piggyback on another. In his arrangement of this work, Maestro Laval makes extensive use of the Schillinger method of applied harmonics, using so many 12ths, majors, 7ths, and 16ths that his musicians begin to feel like fugitives from Stravinsky. Occasionally, on a change of pace, the maestro even uses a plain musical note. Maestro Paul Laval's version of I Dreamt I Dwelt in Harlem, played in a tempo de Hit Him Again, He's Still Happy. Courtney came to us as soloist, we promised her that her association with the society would lead to great things. We pointed out to her the great fame won by another of our protégées, Mademoiselle Dinah Shore. We are now happy to announce that Mademoiselle Courtney has received an offer. She has been invited to fill out a vacant split week as featured vocalist at the Starlight Roof, Municipal Lodging House number 3. As a dress rehearsal for her debut, Mademoiselle Courtney now brings us the contemporary art song, The Boogly Woogly Piggy.
Lots of little piggies go to market, and they never come home. No, they never come home, 'cause they get taken for making bacon. Once a clever piggy learned to do a jig, and he was quite in demand. Oh, not for eating, but because his boogie-woogie dancing couldn't be beaten. This little piggy went to market, this little piggy stayed home. But this little piggy was a boogly-woogly piggy, and he boogie-woogied all the way home. This little piggy had roast beef, this little piggy had none. But this little piggy was a boogly-woogly piggy, and he did the Lindy all the way home. Oink, oink, piggly-wiggly piggy, oink, oink, boogie-woogie boogie. Oink, oink. This little piggy dug too deep, thought the waltz was divine. But this little piggy was a hep little piggy, and he boogie-woogied all of the time. My piggy went to market, he went all alone. My little piggy was a naughty piggy, he boogie-woogied far from home. Help me find my piggy, where's my piggy? I want my piggy.
We'll help you find your piggy. Don't cry.
That's not boogie-woogie, and that's not my piggy. That's my piggy. Come, little piggy, dig 8 feet while I take you home. My little piggy is a hep little piggy. He boogie-woogies all of the time.
As we promised you earlier, our concert is again to be honored by the supreme artistry of Dr. Toots Mondello, his alto saxophone, and your earplugs. In his first appearance, Dr. Toots played in the classical concertante style. This time, he illustrates the basic Native American rhythm, which is referred to by some musicologists as the wrong side of the track's riff. The work programmed is called Beyond the Moon, and it was written by our soloist while he occupied the first saxophone desk of the Goodman Symphony. Dr. Toots Mondello, his saxophone, and your earplugs in Beyond the Moon. Secretary Hotlips Levine has just received notice that he has been deferred in the draft because of dependents. So we are now to hear a selection which is played by way of commemorating the event. Not that Dr. Levine would have minded a year in the Army. As he himself put it, with the number of my relatives, it would simply mean going from one army to another. Since the good doctor has long been practicing up on bugle calls, just in case, we are to hear his version of Bugle Woogie, a Dixieland work which opens with a bugle call played in hot-foot syncopation. Bugle Woogie. And so, music lovers, we have had the blacksmith put new shoes on another one. Next week at this time, the Chamber Music Society of Lower Basin Street will present a special concert for the cadets and officers of the U.S. Naval Reserve training ship, the SS Prairie State, a large number of whom have been invited to attend our concert. At that time, our special guest will be the celebrated high-note trumpet star, Professor Erskine Hawkins. Until then, we adjourn.
Your chairman of the Chamber Music Society of Lower Basin Street has again been Dr. Gino Golden Bantam Hamilton. Tonight's program was heard in Canada through the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation. This is the National Broadcasting Company.
Stay tuned next for Forecast.
Forecast number 1 by CBS. Starring Marlene Dietrich as Scheherazade.
Forecast. The Columbia Broadcasting System presents its annual dress rehearsal of new and exciting radio programs, each plainly earmarked for future reference. Tonight, and on the 7 Monday evenings following, CBS will present 12 new radio first nights under the title Forecast. Each broadcast is intended to be a showcase for an idea, a sample broadcast of a new show which, if you like it, may reach the air as a regular weekly feature. For the benefit of radio listeners who will welcome programs of refreshing new quality, for the benefit of sponsors who are in search of outstanding new radio entertainment, for the benefit of the country's best actors, writers, singers, conductors, comedians, directors, who are finding in these new programs new outlets for their talents, Columbia presents Forecast. Forecast number 1 from Hollywood, Miss Marlene Dietrich and a distinguished cast directed by Charles Vanda in True Boardman's dramatization of the most famous tales of exotic romance and adventure ever written, The Arabian Nights.
to Allah. Delving deep into the greatest of all sources of romantic legendary, CBS presents the tales of the 1001 Nights, the Arabian Nights, starring Miss Marlene Dietrich as the fabulous princess Scheherazade.
I have such tales to tell as no man yet has heard. Wondrous as life itself, magic as birth, beauteous as deathless love. Hear then these words.
Such tales to tell indeed has Scheherazade. Tales from the world's greatest single treasure house of fiction. This evening, during the opening half hour, we shall bring before you as a dramatic prologue the extraordinary story of the great King Shahryar, and of how Scheherazade the Beautiful came to relate the tales of the Arabian Nights. Following this background of our proposed series, we shall present a complete half hour, typical of one you might hear during a representative week of actual commercial broadcasting.
It is related that in Samarkand, in ancient days, there dwelt a certain king. Shahryar was his name, and great his power.
As numberless as trees upon a plain, his subject.
His wealth as boundless as the sea.
Yet was he king of nothing in his heart.
Until the coming of Scheherazade.
Let her name be spoken in whisper. Scheherazade.
Let the magic of her name sing with the rivers. Scheherazade.
Let the wonder of her name echo forth from mountain top to farthest mountain top. Scheherazade.
It is my name they speak. I am Scheherazade. Yet there's little need for wonder or for lavish praise in my behalf. Being a woman, I have but lived as woman must live. And living so, have loved. Loved well.
This then was the beginning. The father of Scheherazade was called Hassan, vizier to Shahryar, the king of Samarkand. And on a certain time it came to pass, the king desired to journey to a distant land, to Araby, where ruled his brother Shah Zaman. The wish of Shahryar was lightning, the word of Shahryar was law. And so upon the morn of his departure... All is in readiness, Hassan, my vizier.
As you commanded, mighty king. 500 of the fleetest horsemen as your royal guard. 1,000 camels richly laden with gifts for your royal brother.
Let us depart, then. Wait. Where is Maradine, my queen? Does the bride of the king not stand forth to wish her husband well on his departure?
I am here, my lord and master.
Embrace me, then. Farewell, my lovely one. Guard well thy charms.
I will guard them well,
And count the hours till my return.
and count the hours till thy return.
See that you do. Hassan, give the command.
Forward! Forward in the name of Allah!
Farewell, Maradine! Guard well thy charms, the king had said, and count the hours till my return. And yet, almost before the echo of the plunging hooves had died away, before the cloud of desert sand the horseman raised upon the western sky was gone.
Maradine, you have come to me. The king.
He has gone to his brother and father's Araby. It is the blessed day of our deliverance. At last.
You will go away with me. You will desert the harem of the king.
Beloved, since we were children, I have loved you. It was my father's will that I should be wed to Shahryar, never my own. I cannot stay with him. I shall not stay.
And at the hour of sundown, they were gone, out through the city gates in some disguise, and on to freedom in the desert night. To freedom and to safety and their destiny together. But suddenly, the king in swift return, a change of heart or mind.
And the very winds cried out in warning, saying, "Go no farther, Shahryar, return."
The wind spoke truly, mighty king, for I have grievous news. Meridine, your queen...
What about my wife?
She has fled.
What is that you say?
This slave has told us all, O mighty one. The queen left Samarkand at sundown with a soldier of the palace guard.
Kill the slave!
But it is true.
I said to kill him! And Hassan.
My lord.
Call forth from my armies every horseman in the kingdom. Bid them ride by every route from Samarkand. Let them find my queen and her beloved, though they ride until the end of time and reach the borders of the earth. I want them found!
And then...
Let the man be slain.
And Meridine, thy queen.
Let Meridine be brought again to Samarkand. That pleasure shall be mine.
No, Shahryar.
I have spoken. And here, father, this in the name of Allah is my vow. This shall not occur again. The king of Samarkand shall have 100 wives, 1,000 if it please him. But never again shall a wife of Shahryar prove faithless to him. Never! For each and all upon the midnight hour of her marriage day shall die!
Never more fateful oath, never more terrible than those words of Shahryar. Maradine, tragic one, brought back in terror, was but the first. Great was the grief of Samarkand in days to come, for festival and death walked hand in hand, and Maradine had many beauteous followers into paradise. Many the marriages, many the sudden deaths. Deaths upon the hour of midnight within the palace of the king. Until at last...
Give me, Almighty King, and spare me your wrath. But what you ask is impossible.
Impossible?
Every father with a daughter of marriage age has sent her forth to some other land.
If there are maidens in other lands, then seek them there. Go where you must and how you will, but follow my command. Bring me new wives.
Hear ye! A proclamation from the Sultan. Hassan, appear in our master's name. Our Sultan has ordered me to proclaim.
Hush to the royal word, hush and be quiet, or soon you will die on death and tragedy. Hush to the royal word, hush and be careful, or you'll have a shamble of death and misery.
You shall swear to journey to everywhere. Find you there, the fairest of all the fair. Bring to your monarch the fairest, the finest in beauty, sublimest for him to marry. Find him in Baghdad a wife who is beautiful. Find in Damascus a wife who is dutiful. Begone, 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 begone.
We shall swear to journey to everywhere. We'll find there the fairest of all the fair. Now we learn our mightiest one's command. We'll return.
Yet more. Begone, find me the fairest of the fair.
Song of birds on the summer air. You're the poet's words, you're an incense rare. You're a ruby's gleam, you're an angel's dream. You're the fairest of all the fair.
It's your mind true that I so adore. Hold me close to you evermore.
the search is vain. Search farther, ever farther.
We shall swear to journey to everywhere. We'll find there the fairest of all the fair. We found a maiden whose charm is notorious. Here is a maiden whose beauty is glorious.
Search for another whose fight is alluring, and thus for a master our quest is enduring. And
we shall swear to journey to everywhere. We'll find there the fairest of all the fair. We shall swear to journey to everywhere.
Ride on, I say, and find more wives. Obey your king's command.
Now we swear we'll journey to everywhere. We've found there the fairest of all the fair. Here for our monarch, our maidens disarming, whose beauty is perfect, whose manners are charming.
here we have women as lovely as flowers, with voices as lovely as summertime showers.
Here we are, the fairest of all the land. We've come far to answer to your command. Mightiest one, your bidding is done. The cream of the earth, the moon and the sun. Here they are. Your worries are gone.
Never in Samarkand had there been seen maidens more beautiful. Surely from these one bride Shahryar must spare. Each time at the wedding feast, anticipation. Every guest waiting with hope and with fear. But all came to death, until there was left only Enid, the lovely one. And even for her, at the same fatal hour.
My lord, my husband, what has come upon you? Why do you look upon me so? You've been pleased with me till now.
It is the hour
The hour?
of your death.
Oh, no.
That melody. You hear it? At its end, you must be gone from this life.
But why?
I have sworn that no wife of mine shall live beyond the midnight hour of our marriage day.
Which is not true.
At the music's end, you have a choice. At my hand, by this sword, or of your own will. From the balcony there, it is a swift and sure descent to the river far beneath.
Shahryar, I loved you. Let me live. Spare me, Shahryar.
None shall be spared. Though my wives be as many as the sands of the sea, none shall be spared. Prepare. The music ends.
No. No, Shahryar, stay back. If I must die, let it not be by the hand of him I love. Farewell, my husband. Farewell!
Farewell, Enid, the lovely one, and swift entry into paradise. Hassan! Hassan!
My lord. From the balcony.
From the balcony.
She was so young, Shahryar.
She was a woman. Hassan, you will find another. There shall be another marriage feast before the moon is full.
That is impossible. For even to the farthest kingdom the stories of your vow have gone. No man who knows will consent to sacrifice his daughter.
Hassan, you have heard my command. A wife within 9 days, young and beautiful. As you yourself would live. I have spoken.
Father,
Dunyazad, my child.
it is not true what I've heard, that we must leave the palace, leave Samarkand.
It is true, Dunyazad, my daughter. And to be spoken only in whispers. I stand on the precipice of the king's displeasure. My very life is forfeit.
Can he not be pacified?
Unless it be by words that are magic, there is no way.
Father, there is a way.
What?
Scheherazade.
Your sister?
Words of magic, you say. Hers are such words. Send for her. Send for Scheherazade.
There's no need. I'm here.
My child.
I was alone in my apartment, and to my heart there came a sudden warning. You, my cherished father, have need of me. I have come.
There is nothing to be done, Scheherazade. The king has commanded on pain of death that I provide another wife for him. And there is no maiden to be found.
You're wrong, my father.
What are you saying, Scheherazade?
Our father shall bring a bride to the king. And within this hour, myself.
No, it shall not be done. I say it shall not be.
I say it shall. Am I not fit to be the queen of Samarkand? Go now. Make ready to escort me to the king.
I cannot. You are my daughter, the light of my whole existence. If you die at his hands...
If I die, I'm unworthy of being called your daughter. Oh, have no fear.
You have none? No fear?
Remember, father, the king is only a man. I am a woman.
My king, you have commanded and I obey. This maiden...
What is her name?
My name is Scheherazade.
Lift your veil that I may see your face.
I lift my veil so I may see your face, O king.
Ay, Allah. She is beautiful, Hassan. More beautiful than...
Than any of your other wives, King Shahryar?
Guard your tongue, my daughter.
Your daughter? This beauty is flesh and blood of my own vizier and has been kept concealed from me till now.
Be not angry with me, Shahryar.
The fault was mine. I have had no desire to appear at the functions of the court.
And what was more important to you than adding your beauty to my palace?
To learn the meaning of the stars, my king. To discover the hidden secrets of true magic. To know all strange and wondrous tales of adventure and romance.
And you do know all these things?
I do.
But now you will graciously abandon them to become my wife.
If it is the will of Allah.
It is my will. Hassan, send for the priests, the witnesses. The wedding shall be performed at once. The marriage career of this proud daughter of yours, however brief, shall be memorable in history.
In truth, Scheherazade, I swear that you were changed by your marriage. Your mirror now seems your only confidant. Must every queen be haughty then and moody?
This haughty face was never meant for you, dear Dunyazad. It is a desperate and daring game I'm about to play. And but for you, I have no confidence. Therefore be true. Remember my instructions.
I remember. At the midnight hour.
At the midnight hour.
Yes, Hassan?
You are pleased with the marriage feast I have arranged?
Well pleased. Well pleased, Hassan.
And with my daughter as your bride?
I am enchanted with her. She is to other women as the brightness of the sun is to the stars. And in the acts of love, she is sublimity itself.
You are not angry with her, then, for the sharpness of her speech when first you met?
That was before our marriage, Hassan. Your daughter now has known her master. She will be silent and obey.
My husband?
Yes, Scheherazade.
This music tires me. I wish it changed.
My daughter.
You wish it changed. And it is you alone who must be pleased?
Who else? Since I am queen, your wife. Let the music cease.
Scheherazade, in the name of heaven, guard your tongue. The hour of midnight is at hand. The king has been pleased with you till now. He loves you.
How do you know he loves me?
He told me so. And if you are beautiful and full of honeyed words, he may spare you.
His other wives were full of honeyed words, and still they died.
They even sang his praises, some of them. You must do that. Oh, mighty king, my daughter has stopped the music, only that she may sing herself. Sing of her praise for you, her husband.
A song of praise. It is well. Silence. Your queen herself would entertain us. Let there be music. Your song, Scheherazade.
My father's mistaken. I have no wish to sing. Besides, Shahryar, I should think by now you would be bored with hearing lies about yourself.
Silence! So my My queen has no desire to sing my praise.
None whatsoever.
And if I asked you to dance for me?
I should refuse. I'm tired, and the hour is late.
You speak truly, Scheherazade. It is later than you think. Begone, all of you, and quickly.
Scheherazade, my daughter.
You, Hassan, I have commanded all to leave.
I go, my lord. I go.
And now, my too proud queen.
I am glad you have sent them away, my husband.
You are glad? You know what must occur within this hour. What must occur by my oath. And this melody. You know what takes place when it has ended.
It is an exquisite melody. You wished me to dance, Shahryar, to dance for many eyes, and I refused. I will dance now for this melody, and for thine eyes alone, and for thy pleasure. See, my husband, never has this dance been known in Samarkand. From a princess of farthest Egypt I've learned it. For you, Shahryar, only for you.
Are you mad? Dancing to the melody of death?
Watch, Shahryar, my husband. Beloved of my heart, watch. Guardian of my delights, let your eyes be my prisoner. Watch.
Stop it.
Shahryar, most exquisite of lovers. Watch.
Stop it, I say, stop.
Your arm is strong, my husband. Strong and beautiful. Come, kill me now. It is the hour, Shahryar. It shall be by thy hand, my husband. No other hand shall touch me while I live. Here, my throat is bare, and I am not afraid. Draw thy sword. Let thy steel pierce its whiteness. Let the red of my blood be a fountain of pleasure to thine eyes. Kill me, beloved husband, Shahryar.
Scheherazade.
You cannot. You love me then.
By Allah! Bare thy throat again.
Scheherazade.
What means this intrusion? Who is this maiden?
She's my sister. My youngest sister, Dunyazad.
I had to know, Scheherazade.
What is it you must know, my sister?
The ending of the adventure. The tale that you were telling when you were called forth to the palace of the king. I cannot rest until I know the ending.
My husband has no interest in tales of romance.
How do you know that?
Oh, it was a wondrous romance that she told King Shahryar. A tale of such love as no man has known.
What is this story, Scheherazade?
You would not believe were I to tell you.
And why not?
It is the story of a faithful wife.
The story lies. In woman there is fidelity to none save to herself. Let me hear this tale and laugh at its untruth.
Very well, my husband, since it is your pleasure. But am I to have no greater audience than this? I am accustomed to many listeners when I tell a story.
Listeners? You shall have them. Hassan! Hassan!
Well done, Dunyazad. Now quickly, which story shall I tell?
Choose anyone. There is magic in all your stories of romance.
Hassan!
I am here, my king, and heavy is my heart with grief. Could you not have spared Scheherazade? She lives.
Yes, Father.
Hassan, summon all back to the court, and quickly.
But I don't understand.
Father, obey the king's command.
Yes, of course. All back to the court at once. She lives. The midnight hour, and still she lives. Magic. Truly it is magic. Allah be praised. Allah be praised.
You have just heard the first half of Columbia's Forecast number 1, in which we have given you the background of the Arabian Nights stories. In just a moment, you will hear Scheherazade tell one of her matchless stories in a complete half-hour broadcast, just as you would hear it if the Arabian Nights and Marlene Dietrich were already being presented for you on the air in a regular weekly series. Miss Dietrich, in the episode we have chosen for tonight's preview, will play 3 roles: Scheherazade, the slave girl Zumurrud, and Zamar the king. We pause briefly for station identification. This, then, is the Columbia Broadcasting System.
Arabian Nights, starring Marlene Dietrich as the fabulous Princess Scheherazade.
I have such tales to tell as no man yet has heard, wondrous and magic-filled and beauteous, wondrous as life itself, magic as birth, beauteous as deathless love. Hear then these words.
At the command of Shahryar, king of Samarkand, all were assembled within the council hall, and great was the astonishment of all to learn the queen yet lived, to see her beauty breathing still, the wondrous, wordless beauty of Scheherazade.
Let there be silence. I have been summoned here as audience for a tale my queen shall tell. When it is over, but no matter. Hearken well unto her words. He would interrupt them shall know my wrath. Proceed, Scheherazade.
As my lord and husband will. This is the true story of Ali Sher, the merchant's son, and Zumurrud, the slave girl, who was to rule as king.
Slave girl rule as king? And you would pretend this tale is true?
Yes, I hope to enter paradise, my husband, but not too soon. It is the truth.
Very well. Continue, Scheherazade.
There was in ancient times, in the land of Persia, a certain youth whose name was Ali Sher. His merchant father had left great wealth to Ali Sher, but with the foolishness of youth he wasted it. And so it came to pass that Ali Sher, the wealthy one, was penniless, and friendless and left alone save for an aged servant of his father named Ramu. And on a certain day the youth and the old man, his servant, were passing through the city when they came upon a throng of persons in the marketplace.
By Allah, I shall go no further, Ramu, until I know the cause of this gathering.
See, master, it is a sale of slaves.
A sale of but one slave, a girl. And look upon her. Have you ever seen such beauty, such perfection? By Allah, she is the vision of my soul's delight.
Let not your heart be captured by her charms, my master. Remember...
Be still. The sale begins.
Of wealth and seekers after loveliness, let now the bidding start. What will you say for this damsel before you, this mistress of moonlike beauties, the precious maiden Zumurrud? What is her worth to you?
Let her be mine for 500 pieces of gold.
500 Kent.
I say 600.
And Kent.
Let us have done with this. I say 1,000.
1,000? Is there no other bidding?
Ramu, my heart is lost to this maiden. If my very soul were gold, I would give it to possess her.
Such thoughts are vain, Ali, my son.
Is there no higher offer? Then to thee, Rashid the merchant, this damsel...
Wait! Speak not the word of sale. I am the seller of this slave, and I am bound by oath to sell her to none but her choosing. You must consult her.
So be it. What say you, Zumurrud? Are you content that this man, Rashid the merchant, should purchase you?
I should prefer to die.
What is it you say?
Look at him. His skin is an ancient parchment scratched by many pens. His beard the abandoned nest of long-departed birds. He is no man at all, but an aged vulture transformed by evil magic into human form.
You will regret these words, my fair one.
Did you hear her voice, Ramu? It is as wondrous as her lips.
Let the tale go on. Is there another who will equal Rashid's price?
I will, and gladly.
How say you to this one, Zumurrud?
This one is better. Oh, much better. He's just too short, too bald, too old, and he has too long a beard. Otherwise, he's perfect. But I will not be sold to him.
I will buy her, and at the price. This man, damsel?
No, not this one.
Let me be her purchaser. This one?
No, not that one.
You are difficult to please. Survey this entire gathering and choose yourself whom you will have as buyer.
I shall. And may Allah grant the one I seek may be among them.
Look, Ramu. See the queenliness of her stature as she surveys the crowd. Verily she is...
By Allah, her eyes rest on you, my son.
Yes, and there is new fire in them, Ramu. The fire of true love.
She comes towards you.
This man I choose. This man and no other shall be my master. For his skin is smooth and his arm is strong. None but this man shall possess me.
Beautiful one, you do not understand. I would give my heart to purchase you. But 1,000 pieces of gold.
Say 900 then.
I cannot.
500.
Believe me,
100 then. Surely I'm worth 100 pieces of gold.
You are worth uncounted hundreds. But I have not the 1,000th part of 100 pieces.
You speak the truth?
The bitter truth.
Then quickly step aside with me.
But what can we do?
Here, take this purse. Long have I concealed it, waiting for this moment. It contains enough. Take it and purchase me.
Zumurrud, how is it that you dare to leave the buyer's circle?
Have no fear, broker. I have no desire to escape.
I will buy this girl, broker, and for the contents of this purse.
And is the seller willing?
I am content.
Here is your gold. Let us go in peace.
I am ready, my lord and master.
One moment, Ali Sher.
You know my name?
I do. I knew your father well. He was an honest fool. So, you have purchased her, have you? The slave girl who has dared to scoff at me, to scorn Rashid the merchant. Well, I wish you well with her.
I fear that man.
You need fear no one, Zumurrud. For I am your protector and your beloved. From this moment until the hour we die. Last of my possessions.
You shall have wealth again, and soon, my master. Believe in me.
But how? There are many things I do not understand. A slave girl in the marketplace who bears a purse of gold, how can that be?
Know first, beloved, that I was not born a slave. I am the daughter of a king.
Is this true?
My father is Sultan of Kaladi, a land across the sea. A land that I have left of my own choosing, never to see again.
But why?
A dream, a single dream I had, that came again to me for 7 nights, and in exact detail.
What was this dream?
An angel came and warned me that I would die, unless I left my father's land forever. That only in some distant country could I find love and happiness.
And you dreamed this 7 times?
This and more. For in my dream I foresaw my departure, and my capture by a seller of slaves. Then I saw the marketplace within this city, and my meeting there with him who must of all men living be my love.
You mean you saw my face in this dream?
I saw your face.
Allah be praised. But wait. Perhaps there was more to this strange dream.
I'm afraid to tell you.
Tell me, I must know.
Beyond our meeting it was not clear. But there was separation and suffering for us both. And as the dream came to its end each time I heard these words. When thou art king, Zumurrud, then and only then shall there be hope of finding thy lost love.
When thou art king? A woman king? This dream is madness.
But Ali Sher, this dream has brought me here.
And we shall forget the whole of it but that. The blessedness of our togetherness. For you shall be my bride, Zumurrud, not just my slave. In truth, I love thee well. We shall go now, this hour, to the marriage place.
That too was in my dream, our marriage.
I tell you to forget the dream.
Be warned, Zumurrud. There shall be separation. When thou art king, then and only then shall there be hope of finding thy lost beloved.
Ali Sher.
You are pale.
Did you not hear?
Hear.
That voice of warning, it came again.
There was no voice, and I heard none. Come, Zumurrud, to the marriage place. From this moment forth, our future is of our own making. Nothing under heaven can part us. weeks since our marriage have been as time stolen from paradise. In truth, my wife is the living queen of all her sex.
Alisher, beloved, your words are my enslavers. Your words in your arms.
Zumurrud, I must go. The morning sun is already high.
No, do not leave me, my husband.
Do you suppose I wish to? But if your husband is to again be a wealthy merchant, worthy of the most desirable wife in all Persia...
I care not for wealth, only for thee, Alisher. Please go not to the marketplace today. I feel it dangerous.
Dangerous?
Remember my dream and the separation and suffering it foretold. Stay by my side.
That dream again. For the 1000th time I tell you to erase it from your mind. For us there can be no danger. Our destiny is happiness together. Farewell, my beloved. I must go.
Farewell, my husband. And may Allah be with you.
The home of Alisher, the merchant.
Yes.
He who is a seller in the bazaar.
Yes, yes. What about him?
A youth. Tall in stature he is and fair of face.
Name of Allah, will you tell me what is wrong?
He has been injured.
Oh, no.
An accident in the marketplace. The physician who was passing by attended him and asked me to come for you.
Alisher. He's not badly hurt?
He may not live.
Oh, please. Please take me to him. Quickly. Let go of me. Alisher is not in this house. You've lied to me.
Have I indeed? In there with you, fair one.
So we have a visitor. Welcome, Zumurrud. 1,000 welcomes. Well done, my brother.
So it is you, Rashid the merchant, the bidder of the 1,000 pieces of gold. And this lying one is your brother.
So my beard is the abandoned nest of long-departed birds. I am unfit to be the master of such as you. Well, you shall see. Mila!
Rashid, my lord and husband.
This is my new and favorite wife. She who holds in my harem the place you might have held had you been less proud. Mila, are you content to be my bride?
I am well content, Rashid. I count myself doubly blessed by thy love.
You hear that, proud one? Now, Mila, it is my pleasure to give you this girl, Zumurrud, as your slave. And you shall beat her soundly each day. 50 lashes with this most exquisite of whips which I have provided. You will enjoy that, no?
I will enjoy it greatly, my lord.
Good. Then I will leave her to your tender care, Mila, beloved. Come, my brother.
I come, Rashid.
Well, wife of Rashid, why do you hold the lash silent? Do you think I'm afraid? Strike.
I shall.
Go on. Let fall your arm.
No, I cannot. I cannot.
But if your beloved husband commanded you...
I hate my husband. I was sold to him by my father. I loathe his touch upon me.
You spoke with sweetness and affection.
Only because I must deceive Rashid until I shall find means of escape from him.
Escape?
It would mean death if I am captured. But I would gladly take that risk were I not alone.
You need not be alone. Mila, listen. As his favored wife, you have the freedom of this house and of the gardens.
Yes.
And you can demand that as your slave, I never leave your side.
Yes.
That is enough. We shall contrive to get beyond the walls.
But even then, 2 women traveling alone, passing through the city gates, out into the desert.
Yes, you're right. There was some disguise.
Disguise? Wait! 2 days ago, Rashid and his brother waylaid a soldier of the king. They brought him here and robbed and murdered him. The uniform he wore they have concealed in a closet. The man was not tall of stature and perhaps...
Perfect. I shall wear the uniform and travel as a soldier. You shall be my sister.
Yes. But if we fail...
Fail? If we fail, we die, Mila, and enter into paradise. But if we do not fail, we have hope again of love and happiness upon this earth.
Stay tuned next for the Cavalcade of America.
The Cavalcade of America, presented by DuPont, maker of better things for better living through chemistry. In the city of Boston stands a statue erected in memory of a woman named Anne Hutchinson. It rises near the site of the old Massachusetts General Court, which banished Anne Hutchinson in the year 1637 for teaching that men may worship God according to the dictates of their consciences. That statue of Anne Hutchinson is a symbol of the religious freedom Americans fought for and finally won. And tonight, Cavalcade presents her story in a radio play written by Robert Tallman. Starring in the role of Anne Hutchinson is Agnes Moorehead of the Cavalcade Players. Our orchestra and the original musical score are under the direction of Don Voorhees. DuPont, maker of better things for better living through chemistry, presents Agnes Moorehead as Anne Hutchinson on the Cavalcade of America. It's a winter's evening in the year 1636, the newly founded town of Boston in the colony of Massachusetts Bay.
Greetings, good elders. Come in. We were just going to start without you.
Hi, John Winthrop. 'Tis bitter going from Cambridge this night.
The season's upon us right enough. None too soon. Warm weather breeds heresies. Isn't that so, Brother Cotton?
We shall see. Good evening, Mr. Peters.
Good evening.
Gentlemen.
Good evening. Pray be seated, gentlemen. 'Tis time for the Lord's work to begin. It's good you came, Brother Cotton, for the matter at hand concerns you most particularly.
But I know of no heresies in my congregation, Brother Peters.
Brother Peters refers to Mistress Anne Hutchinson.
Mistress Hutchinson?
Come, Brother Cotton, Anne Hutchinson's activities can't have escaped your notice. And all the colony buzzes with talk of her.
But all favorable talk, John Winthrop. She's mightily loved by the people.
Just so. The devil in her that charms them.
Are you quite sure of that, Winthrop?
Well, let's not deceive ourselves, Brother Cotton. We're the ministers of God in this colony, but we're more than that. We're all the government there is in this new world.
I fail to see what that has to do with Mistress Hutchinson.
Mistress Hutchinson has achieved some fame for her good works, am I right?
Indeed she has.
She feeds the poor. She nurses the ill.
Surely all very commendable.
The state of the poor is God's punishment for their sins, Brother Cotton.
But charity is part of God's mercy.
Not Anne Hutchinson's charity. For with it she spreads a doctrine of free conscience. Such thinking makes this woman a heretic. And among the rabble can have only one result, a rebellion against our authority in this colony.
If that be true, we must act, and act quickly.
Precisely. There's only one way to deal with Mistress Hutchinson. Cast her out of the colony altogether.
Banishment? For a woman? 'Twould be too cruel, Winthrop.
You know what banishment means, even for a man, Brother Winthrop.
If it were summer, she might find her way to Rhode Island and join Roger Williams and his heretics. But in winter...
It means death. But it's our stern duty in the eyes of God. Unless, of course, we can induce Mistress Hutchinson to repent of her crimes.
She has friends, Winthrop. Even Governor Vane of the colony.
Harry Vane? We have the authority to banish him as well. Don't forget that.
He was elected by the people. Don't forget that, Winthrop.
When the people elect such men, they need guidance. The Lord's ministers are the rulers of this colony, Brother Cotton. This is only fitting.
Yes, of course.
Very well. We shall call on Mistress Hutchinson and give her fair warning this very evening.
Open, in the name of the elders of Massachusetts Bay. Open the door, I say.
please?
The elders of the colony, child. Let us see them. Go fetch your mother.
The elders of the colony?
Child, do you not know the ministers of the gospel when you see them?
I must say you don't look very godly. I mean, no more than anyone else.
You see, brothers, her poison infects even her offspring.
Tell me, lad, what does your mother say about the ministers of the gospel?
Well, she says... Well, maybe you better ask Mother. I'll go and fetch her.
Go on, Edward. Answer Mr. Winthrop's question.
Mrs. Hutchinson.
This is indeed an honor, gentlemen. No, wait, Edward. I want you to answer Mr. Winthrop's question. It's only polite.
Well, Mother says... That is, she likes the preaching of Mr. Cotton and Mr. Wheelwright, but she says the rest of you are like the apostles before they were sealed with the Holy Spirit.
Well, gentlemen, being compared to the apostles at any time is something of a compliment, now isn't it?
Gentlemen, pray do make yourselves comfortable. Edward, go and brew some tea for the ministers.
Yes, Mother.
Now then, where shall we begin our discourse, gentlemen?
Mistress Hutchinson, it is the injunction of St. Paul that the women shall remain silent.
Alas, that is true. But it is the injunction of Titus that the older women shall instruct the younger. And I try to do my duty in that respect.
You have a glib tongue, Mistress Hutchinson, but that will not save you.
Save me? From what?
From banishment.
Oh.
Confess before the people that your teachings against the ministers are inspired by the evil.
I teach nothing against the ministers, and even if I did...
There can be no opposition to God's elect, Mistress Hutchinson.
Don't you think God might have something to say in the matter?
Mistress Hutchinson, you blaspheme.
You said enough, gentlemen. There will be no more of these meetings of the women in your home, Mistress Hutchinson. For if there be any such, you will be banished into the wilderness. Is that understood?
Yes, gentlemen. I'm beginning to understand a great many things. Women of Massachusetts Bay, I have asked you to this meeting on a matter of high import. And only faith may now save that which we have labored to preserve in this new world.
What mean you, Mistress Hutchinson?
That whatever our faith be, its pivot is one principal faith. The freedom to worship God according to the dictates of our consciences, without interference from any earthly power.
Oh, but Mistress Hutchinson, the ministers call such talk by the name of heresy.
It is their privilege to do so. Just as it is my privilege to say that I believe it not.
But dare we flout the authority of the ministers? They do say that disobedience to them is a violation of the commandment.
What commandment?
To honor thy father and thy mother.
We have but one Father, God. And we may seek him as we see fit. I in my way, you in yours, and Mistress Dyer in hers, after the manner of the Quakers in a society of friends.
God bless thee for those words, Anne Hutchinson. 'Tis the first kind word I've heard in this community since... Oh, Mrs. Hutchinson.
Speak out, Jane. What is it?
They stoned me in the street. Yes, thee, Mistress Haynes, and thee, Mistress Ward. I saw thee among them.
Is this true, good women?
It is true, but we were distracted. 'Twas something possessed us, Mistress Hutchinson. There was a great crowd, and we followed. But 'twas no more than John Winthrop did urge us a meeting.
Jane Dyer, you are free to talk as you will in this house. Rise and speak as the Spirit gives you to speak. Don't be afraid, Jane. You're among friends now.
I'd just like to say...
She's fainted. Get water, someone. Help me get the poor child to the bedroom.
The sign, perhaps. She was stricken for the heresy she was about to
Hold
speak.
your tongue, woman. Help me loosen her garments.
Why, she...
Will some of you good women help me?
No, we can't. This woman's a Quaker, Mistress Hutchinson. 'Twould mean banishment.
Priscilla, you will help me attend your sister.
Me?
Yes. The rest of you had better leave now. Fetch the kettle, Priscilla, and linen towels.
It's all over, isn't it?
Yes, Jane. It's all over. Try to rest.
But the baby. Where's my baby?
Jane, my dear, do you love the Lord in your heart?
Oh, Anne, I do. I do.
Then you can bear to hear.
Oh.
Your baby.
Dead.
Oh. 'Twas better so, believe me, Jane.
It wasn't a monster.
Oh.
Oh, and maybe Mr. Winthrop and the minister. They said I'd be punished for leaving the church for my husband's faith.
And the people shouted, saying, "The voice of God and not of a man." But the word of God grew and multiplied.
Oh. Thee comforts my soul, Anne Hutchinson.
Try to sleep a little now, my dear. For this night a great thing has happened in this new land. They that make the innocent to suffer are not to wield the power here. Not for long.
And so, gentlemen, as governor of the colony of Massachusetts Bay, I've called you here because I understand you have certain charges to make against Mistress Anne Hutchinson.
Governor Vane, that woman has presumed to judge the elders of the church.
I judge no man, Mr. Winthrop. For of a man's conscience, only God may judge.
And is this then why the women of the colony no longer attend our meetings?
That is their affair, Mr. Peters.
Yet you presume upon our business.
I do. I accuse you of betraying your trust and the principles upon which this colony was founded.
And does Governor Vane accuse us the same?
Mr. Winthrop, you and the other elders make up the tribunal of this colony. I but govern by your consent.
And Mistress Hutchinson's as well, I gather.
By hers, and that of the rest of the people of this colony.
Then by heaven they shall rally to our banners in the common at the first opportunity. Aye, and the stocks.
We'll see about that.
Will we? By whom? You?
You will not put Mistress Hutchinson in the stocks as long as I'm governor here.
As I said, Governor, at the first opportunity. You won't be governor forever. We'll see to that.
I tell you, Brother Weems, Mistress Hutchinson is but a scapegoat of that scoundrel Winthrop.
Beware how you speak of our new governor, brother. We live in dangerous times.
Morning, citizens.
Morning.
Been over to the other side of the common yet?
Not yet. What's happening?
Mistress Hutchinson's been put in the stocks. They say it is a most handsome spectacle.
Come, we'll walk over together. Tell me, brother, what make you of this witchcraft, this heresy, this talk of freedom of conscience?
Oh, it is the devil is in that woman right enough. Why, my good sister-in-law was quite distracted. She's been and seen visions, she said. Mistress Hutchinson was a saint, one of the sanctified of Joan of Arc. Oh, looky, brother. I see the stocks ahead. What a crowd.
It is not often the daughter of an English clergyman has been seen in the stocks.
Where's your precious freedom now, Anne? Hey, speak up. Did you not arrive where you are through too much liberty? Liberty!
Stop it, you great oaf. Stop it, I say. Can you not even leave a fair lady in peace when she's helpless to defend herself?
Thank you, Brother Weems. You've a stout heart.
Aye. I'm one as wants to see you victorious over yon windy tyrant. Speak out, Anne. Tell them our side of it. You'll never have so great an audience as now.
Brother Weems, you're right. I will speak out. Citizens, listen to me. Look at me here like an animal in a trap. How long are you going to let Winthrop and the elders trample on the liberties you came here to secure for yourselves? Will you elect him to office again just because whoever happens to be against him is called a heretic? Or will you be men at home as you were against the Indians? Citizens, assert yourselves. Make this new world a new world indeed.
Aye, but how, Mom?
Yeah, the elders have the power. What can we do?
There is one more powerful than the elders, King Charles. Petition the king to withdraw Winthrop and elect a governor of your own choice. Strike the first blow for freedom in America.
Proclamation by the elders of the colony of Massachusetts Bay. This day, in the town of Boston, doth convene a court of justice, which will sit in trial and judgment of a grievous heresy. All are summoned who may bear witness for or against the Mistress Anne Hutchinson of Cambridge. Hear ye, hear ye.
Court's in session. Mistress Hutchinson will stand in the dock.
Elder Wilson, I should like to conduct the questioning of Mistress Hutchinson on behalf of the people of the colony.
You may proceed, Governor.
Thank you. Mistress Hutchinson, I accuse you of crimes against the people whose representative I am.
Do the people accuse me, Governor Winthrop?
Your glib evasions are of no account here. You have an evil spirit. Confess it and be exorcised.
Good people, you answer me. Do you accuse me?
The people will remain silent.
Why? Why must the people remain silent? Are you afraid to let them speak?
Mistress Hutchinson speaks wisely, Elder Wilson. By what authority does Governor Winthrop speak the people's mind?
You will hold your impudent tongue, Mr. Coggeshall. You may proceed, Governor Winthrop.
It is easy to see how you do incite the people to seditious disorder, Mistress Hutchinson.
Is it seditious disorder to beg permission to speak one's mind, Governor?
I am conducting these questions, Mistress Hutchinson.
We direct you to answer in an orderly fashion.
Very well.
Mistress Hutchinson, is it true that you did lure and beguile certain of the women of the colony to meet at your home in order to teach them a heresy?
It is not.
Is it not true that you did seek out the parish outcasts and deliver their souls to the devil as well?
It is not.
Is it not true that you did lure them with gifts of food which the Lord had denied them for their sin?
It is not.
Governor Winthrop, I must warn you against seeking to condemn the witness for acts of charity.
I do not condemn the act, sir. I seek to show that this woman used her good works to incite the people to rebellion.
No, that's not true.
Your conscience speaks at last, madam. You are fearful.
Elder Wilson, I cannot submit to being questioned in this manner.
You will proceed more quietly, Governor.
Very well. Mistress Hutchinson, you confess that these people met at your house?
The women met regularly at my house for prayer and discussion, as all do know.
And what was discussed?
Freedom of conscience, which I believe to be the basis of our liberties here.
You convict yourself eloquently, madam.
If the truth can convict me, it shall do so. The charges against me are not being made in the interests of religion, but for the suppression of freedom, so that you, Governor Winthrop, may remain in power. I said so before, and I say so again to you direct.
I must forbid any further such remarks in this court, Mistress Hutchinson. If you have finished, you may leave the dock.
I do so with these words. I pray God the people will not suffer long under this tyranny.
Thank you, Mistress Hutchinson. You have convicted yourself neatly. Better than I could ever hope to do.
The court will now hear the evidence of Prudence Ainsworth. Come forward, Mistress Ainsworth.
What do you want me to say, Elder Wilson?
Just tell the story you told Parson Peters.
Well, one evening I passed Mistress Hutchinson coming across the common, and I distinctly saw a ball of fire floating above her head. When I reached home, I fell down on the floor in a dead faint. I'd seen a vision. It was the devil telling me to sign the petition against our governor.
That will do, Mistress Ainsworth. Court will now hear Charity Stockton.
Well, I was putting the children to bed when I heard a noise outside. I looked out, and there was a figure dressed all in white. I couldn't see the face very well, but I know then it must be Mistress Hutchinson up to her old tricks. The next morning, the children had come down with the smallpox.
Elder Wilson, in the interests of fairness, perhaps there is someone who will testify in defense of Mistress Hutchinson.
I will speak in her defense, Elder Wilson.
Let him speak, Elder Wilson. Let him convict her as well.
Elders, do you accept the testimony of these distracted women as evidence? I say that all that is on trial here is Mistress Hutchinson's idea of freedom. I say...
You are out of order, sir. You will be silent.
I will not be silent. I accuse you and Governor Winthrop of a conspiracy against our liberties.
Silence! Eject that man.
Now, Elder Wilson, I do give into your hands the fate of this prisoner.
Then hearken to your judgment, Anne Hutchinson. In the name of the Lord Jesus Christ, and in the name of the Church, I do not only pronounce you worthy to be cast out, but I do cast you out. And in the name of Christ, I do deliver you up to Satan, that you may learn no more to blaspheme, to seduce, and to lie. And I do account you from this time forth to be a heathen and a publican, and so to be held of all the brethren and sisters of this congregation and of others. Therefore, I command you in the name of Christ Jesus and of this church, as a leper, to withdraw yourself out of the congregation.
Elder Wilson, may I speak?
The court is now disposed to hear whatever the prisoner wishes to say.
Then these are my last words. In this hour, the Lord has revealed himself to me sitting upon a throne of justice and prophecy. He has given me to know that generations will remember this moment as a bitter hour when tyrants sought to bring ruin and destruction to the freedom of the Spirit. But men shall take warning and will have no fear. For I know that what is happening to me, here and now, will stand for generations to come on this continent as a warning of the estate men may come to who are not vigilant of their liberties. You have driven me from this place, but know you this: the bounds of my exile are set in heaven, and I go in the name of the Lord and with his words. Forgive them, for they know not what they do.
The Cavalcade of America thanks Agnes Moorehead and the Cavalcade players for their performance of the story of a great fighter for American religious freedom, Anne Hutchinson. She fought for the religious liberty we enjoy in our way of life. Today, we are called upon once more to maintain our democracy and its traditions, not only in its spiritual but in its physical aspects. Therefore, one of the most vital aspects of our present defense effort is the conservation of our food supply, in which chemistry has assumed an indispensable role. DuPont brings you evidence of this in a story of chemistry at work in our world. In a time of national emergency, our food supply is our second line of defense. Every mouthful of food wasted becomes a matter of vital concern to the nation. Molds and bacteria are responsible for a food loss estimated at $100 million a year. Every housewife has had unpleasant experiences with mold. In summer particularly, its ugly threads, gray or green or black, appear suddenly and mysteriously on a loaf of bread. Then, though the bread may still be fresh, it must be thrown out, wasted. When you throw out a loaf of moldy bread, you may feel the waste is small, but multiply one loaf by 1 million families, and you realize that thousands of tons of precious wheat are wasted. Wasted, too, are tractor fuel used in cultivation, fertilizers, space and grain elevators, railroad transportation, all of the costs, all of the ingredients that enter into the finished loaf, all the labor that begins with the farmer and ends with the driver of the baker's delivery truck and the clerk in the grocery store. Mold is a plant, a living organism. Just as a weed is an unwanted plant in a garden, mold is an unwanted plant in the world of microorganisms. Under a microscope, you could see its seeds or spores scattering over the bread. Then why, if mold wastes so many food dollars that we need elsewhere, doesn't science do something about it? Chemists, we're proud to say, have done something about it. Nature produces a salt that has a marked effect in delaying the growth of mold. The salt is present in many foodstuffs, butter, milk, and cheese, for example, but in such small amounts that its effect on mold isn't very noticeable. Swiss cheese, however, is an exception. A Swiss cheese rarely molds because it contains almost 1% of this natural salt known as propionate. Why not make propionate salts chemically and add them to bakery products? That was the question chemists asked, and that was what they proceeded to do. Propionate salts were introduced by the DuPont Company under the trademark Mycoban. This summer, if you buy white or dark breads, cakes, or pies from a baker who uses Mycoban propionate salts, you'll find they remain mold-free much longer. And research is going on. Today, having solved the problem of mold in bread, DuPont chemists are experimenting with the use of Mycoban as an inhibitor of mold in cakes, pies, soft and hard cheeses, jellies, tobacco, dried fruits, and beverages. Our food supply is important to us at any time. At a time like the present, it is doubly vital. Cutting down on food waste is one of the many achievements of the chemists who bring you better things for better living through chemistry. And now a word about our program next week. We're going to tell you the story of a man who, in his own words, earned a living the easiest way he knew how, because he admitted he was just plain lazy. So he figured writing short stories was a cinch. Well, for him it was, because that man was O. Henry. In a play on Cavalcade next week, we tell you his story, and playing the part of this beloved American writer will be Carl Swenson of the Cavalcade Players. And in our story of chemistry at work in our world, we bring you the latest news about DuPont's synthetic rubber, neoprene. We hope you'll join us at this same time next week when DuPont again presents the Cavalcade of America. At this time, may we remind you of the opportunity you have to enlist your dollars for defense by buying defense bonds or stamps at your bank or your post office. Let's prove our right to liberty by buying defense bonds or stamps for America. On the Cavalcade of America, your announcer is Clayton Collier, sending best wishes from DuPont.
This is the Red Network of the National Broadcasting Company.
And that's the way it was on July 14th, 1941. My name is Henry Chop, your host, and in a little bit I will tell you what we are going to listen to tomorrow night. If you enjoy the content of this channel, not only subscribe, but please donate to its upkeep. Because of the vintage radio, music, and films that we share, this channel does not qualify for YouTube monetization. Help motivate us to consistently post this wonderful content. We like to think that this channel is more interesting and entertaining than any other World War II channel on YouTube. Help us keep going by donating. In the expanded description section to this video, you will find two links for which to donate. One is for PayPal and the other is for a GoFundMe. If the GoFundMe link is outdated on this video, go to this channel's description or our latest video where you will find an updated link. Any little bit helps. If you love old-time radio, film, and music, don't forget to subscribe to this channel and click on the bell icon to get notifications as to when a new upload will premiere. If you are interested in World War II as much as I am, check out our other channel, the World War II newspaper channel. Expand the description section to this video and you will see a link that will take you there. Now I'd suggest listening to the latest upload to decide if it's your thing. Over there you will hear the Chicago Tribune read to you for between 90 minutes to 2 hours. You will get a much more detailed look about what it was like to actually live through World War II than I can give you just by sharing radio broadcasts. You will not only hear detailed news of the big battles and historical events, you will hear trivial facts about the war. You will hear news from the United States home front from the early stages of U.S. mobilization and war protests to Pearl Harbor and the ramping up of the war machine to the final victories and reconversion. You will hear every facet of American life change forever. Tomorrow night we are going to spotlight July 15th and July 16th, 1941 as we continue through summer break. We are going to have the Goldbergs, Vic and Sade, Frank Buck's Jungle Quiz, Mr. and Mrs. North, and a big band remote, Jimmy Dorsey and the orchestra from the Café Rouge. And Jimmy Dorsey, of those of you who follow the Hit Parade Jukebox every Saturday night, know that Jimmy Dorsey was hot at this time, so it's going to be great to hear the Jimmy Dorsey Orchestra. Until then, let's turn off this old tube radio. That's our time machine. Good night. God bless.
This changing world, this changing scene, where is it taking us? What does it mean? As long as we're certain of each other, we know we don't have to be afraid. These changing times we rise above. We have no time for them. We have our love, and love is the only thing that still remains the same through all this change.